Chapter 78. In another place in the spiritual demon valley, there were 4 cultivators wearing the Yu-Yang sect's uniform. They were surrounding a stooped man with a wretched appearance. The wretched-looking man said uneasily, "Fellow Taoists of the Yang clan, I, Pan Shu, will not run away. Why do you have to surround me so carefully?" The middle-aged man named Han Tiancho from the Yu-Yang sect chuckled and said, "Pan Shu, your name is well known among the cultivators in the Qi refining stage. We'd better be careful. Otherwise, we won't be able to find you if you escape." After hearing this, Pan Shu gave a hollow laugh and said, "Since I promised to help you track down the devil spirit sects to Yuan Shan, I will definitely keep my promise. Moreover, I still need fellow Taoist Huang Fei and fellow Taoist Chen Yin to reforge my giant spirit shield and increase its power." The disciple from the refining be named Huang Fei frowned and looked at Pan Shu's messy clothes. He asked, "Then why are you here alone? Did you and Du Yuan Shan split up when you entered the valley?" Pan Shu immediately shook his head and looked around timidly. He said, "Du Yuan Shan and I, along with the Fu brothers, ambushed Shun Mingyao and a male cultivator in the passage. After a fierce battle, I was almost killed by the male cultivator and had to leave first." At this time, the fat disciple named Yu Feng cried out, "A fierce battle in the passage? How is that possible? What if the opponent destroyed everything? Everyone would die under the yellow demonic fog." Pan Shu saw that the other Yang clan members also didn't believe him. He had to take out a sound transmitting charm with a bitter smile and said, "Fellow Taoists, if you don't believe me, you can listen to this sound transmitting charm. It can't be fake, right?" After saying that, a yellow light flashed in his hand, and he activated the sound transmission talisman. A slightly angry voice came from the talisman. "Pan Shu, you coward. If you had stopped Shun Mingyao for a while longer, then the 2 of them would have been killed by us. But now, not a single one of them died." When Pan Shu heard this, his face was a little embarrassed. However, the expressions of the Yang clan members didn't change, as if it was normal for Pan Shu to do so. The voice transmission talisman paused for a moment before the voice continued. "Pan Shu, your Earth escape technique is the safest in this demon valley. Think of a way to pass through the central region first. I will contact you when the time comes." Then, the voice transmission talisman went silent. Chun Yin, the other disciple from the refining bee peak, asked, "Is the traitor hiding in the central area? How is that possible?" Huang Fei, the one with the highest cultivation, said, "Okay, I don't think Pan Shu is lying. We will find a way to pass through the central area later. Pan Shu, you just need to activate the magic tool I gave you, and we'll be able to locate you. You should know that although your Earth escape technique is amazing, it is very dangerous to use it in the central area. Help us track Du Yuan Shan, and we might even save your life." Pan Shu seemed to be somewhat afraid of Huang Fei. He lowered his eyebrows and said, "Fellow Taoist Huang is right. You should know that I, Pan Shu, am famous for being afraid of death. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken the initiative to find you in Lingming Market. For my little life, I will also activate that magic tool." Huang Fei nodded and said to the other 3 junior brothers, "Let him go. I believe fellow Taoist Pan Shu will abide by our agreement." Pan Shu cupped his hands at them and used the Earth escape technique to escape to the west of the Demon Valley. It turned out that Pan Shu had been invited by Du Yuan Shan to help at the very beginning. However, Pan Shu was the most afraid of death among the rogue cultivators. He knew that the demon spirit sect would very likely turn against him. Moreover, Du Yuan Shan's magic could somewhat restrain his Earth escape technique. Just in case, Pan Shu sold this information to the Yang clan and reached an agreement with them. Pan Shu would help them find the traitor of the demon spirit sect, and the Yang clan would protect his life and time. In addition, they would help him reforge his top-grade magic tool, the giant spirit shield. Pan Shu knew that his aptitude was low, and 2 foundation establishment pills might not be enough for him. He might as well take advantage of this group of disciples and gain enough benefits. Seeing this wretched rogue cultivator leave, Han Tiancho took a sip of wine and sighed. Although this Pan Shu's aptitude isn't high, his comprehension of magic is extremely high. Even in our sect, only the Foundation establishment martial uncles know how to use the Earth Escape technique. I didn't expect this rogue cultivator to be so proficient in it. Huang Fei was also somewhat moved, but he changed the topic. Junior brothers, next we need to think of a way to pass through the central region. With the detailed map of the sect's senior disciples and the distribution of demon beasts, it shouldn't be difficult for us to pass through. Chinyan also said that's right. Moreover, our junior brother Yufeng once escaped from the central region. Haha. Yufeng's fat face turned green after hearing this. I just so happened to encounter two demon beasts attacking each other. That's why I was able to escape. Then let's start planning how to pass through the central region. Okay, senior brothers, junior brothers, I think. At this time, Du Yuanshan had already separated from the Fu brothers. He had been to the Spirit Demon Valley before to carry out a mission, so he was quite familiar with the demon beasts here. He would pass through the central region along the northern side of the valley. According to his previous exploration and observation, the northern side of the central region was a plain where many mid-tier demon beasts lived. Among them, there was a large group called the Wind Spirit Horse. This group was very powerful, and there were no other demon beasts within its range. Du Yuanshan also knew the daily routine of this group. He still had 2 invisibility talismans left, so he could secretly pass through during their rest periods. The Fu brothers and Du Yuanshan parted ways not only because they didn't have enough invisibility talismans, but also because they needed to find a demon beast called the Blackhorn Snake. It was said that there were several high-tier blackhorn snakes living in a small forest at the border between the central region and the outer region. The Fu brothers wanted to try their luck. If they could obtain the horns of 2 high-tier blackhorn snakes and refine them into the unparalleled rod, then the power of the unparalleled rod would continue to increase. If they were lucky enough to obtain a top-tier blackhorn snake, then the unparalleled rod could evolve into a top-tier magic tool. At that time, the combined attack power of the unparalleled rod would reach the pinnacle of a top-tier magic tool. The Yi siblings who entered the Demon Valley first were on a mountain peak in the outer region. One of them, a blue-robed man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, said, "Little sister, the cultivators who entered the Demon Valley this time are not simple. Basically, they are all disciples of the Yang clan and the Miraculous Gate. Don't you think there is something strange about them?" The other woman, who was wearing a purple robe, had beautiful eyebrows, bright eyes, and white teeth. She had a graceful figure and was looking at a map in her hand, constantly comparing it with something. When she heard her brother's words, she didn't even raise her head and replied, "This place often has disciples carrying out missions. What's strange about it? Don't be long-winded over there. Hurry up and help me see if this is the mountain peak." Chapter 79. In a forest near the central region, sounds of fighting could be heard. From time to time, there would be the miserable howls of wild beasts. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that 2 people and a monkey were fighting with a pack of wolf-type monsters. It was Lu Kuan and the others. This pack of wolves just happened to approach Xiao Jin while they were cultivating. By the time Xiao Jin discovered them, it was already too late. Lu Kuan had pinned down almost all of the wolves. His steel-like arms were burning with a deep yellow flame. This flame spread all the way to the hammer-shaped magic tools in his hands. The black clothes on his upper body had already been clawed with several holes, and there were bloodstains on his clothes. His expression was filled with madness, and his pupils carried a blood-red sharpness, causing people to feel apprehensive. Among the monsters surrounding Lu Kuan, there were 6 wolves emitting the aura of Class 1 upper-tier monsters and a dozen mid-tier wolves. These mid-tier demonic wolves were unable to break through the yellow light on Lu Kuan's body. Even if the few high-tier demonic wolves were able to break through it, Lu Kuan would disappear from where he stood. When he reappeared, he would be behind one of the mid-tier demonic wolves, smashing down with a giant hammer that was burning with demonic fire and carrying a thunderous force. At this moment, Xiao Jin's appearance was also somewhat different. His entire body was 1 size thicker, and he brandished the two flaming staffs. He was abnormally fierce, and yellow light would occasionally emit from under his feet. His speed was extremely fast, and the few mid-tier wolves on the periphery had no way of touching him. However, if they were hit by Xiao Jin's short staffs, they would stagger for a while, and those who were hit in the vitals would even fall to the ground. At this moment, Chunmeng Yao was standing in the distance. She was a little dazed as she looked at the man and monkey fighting amongst the group of beasts. She was at a loss as she controlled the green spirit sword to attack. Occasionally, she would release a few control spells. With Lu Kuan moving quickly amongst the group of beasts and waving his iron hammer to block the wolves, almost no beasts attacked her. Even if one or two mid-tier wolves on the periphery rushed over, they would be blocked by the blue magic power barrier on her body. Then, with a flash of sword light, they would be finished off. Such an easy battle was just like when she had just started cultivating, practicing her spells on targets, and controlling her artifacts to attack. It was just as dull and simple. In the time it took to eat a meal, all the demonic wolves were killed. Shen Mingyao looked at the 20 demonic beast corpses around her, her face full of disbelief, although nearly half of them were killed by her. It must be noted that there were no less than 6 upper-level demonic wolves in this group of demonic beasts, while the rest were mid-level demonic wolves. If 2 ordinary late-stage, Qi, refining cultivators were to encounter so many mid-level and high-level demonic beasts without being able to fly, they would definitely turn tail and run. They might not even be able to escape. However, Lu Kuan showed no signs of fear. His entire body emitted a yellow glow as he wielded the high-grade magic artifact, which was burning with Yao flames, and charged into the horde of Yao beasts. She had never seen a refinement stage cultivator with this kind of defensive power. Moreover, he had such a strange movement technique. Moreover, his physical strength was extremely strong. Chunmeng Yao saw several high-level demon wolves, but they were actually kicked away by him. One must know that these were powerful demon beasts that weighed several hundred pounds. Could it be that he really is a demonic beast that is transformed into human form? But his current strength is only at the Qi refining stage. Shen Mingyao couldn't help but have such a thought. Lu Kuan looked at the blood on his body. He couldn't tell if it was from the demonic beasts or him. His expression was very complicated. When so many demonic beasts came over, he originally planned to use the Qi refining hammer to block for a while and use the power of Shen Mingyao's green spirit sword to kill some of them. Then, he would retreat while fighting. However, when he subconsciously used the elemental fire barrier, he realized that the demonic aura had formed a yellow barrier around his body. This barrier seemed to be even stronger than his original elemental fire barrier. It directly blocked most of the attacks. In addition, the power of the Yao flames was not weak, so this battle was not as difficult as he had imagined. Moreover, even if a few demonic beasts broke through his defense, they would only suffer superficial injuries. If that was the case, it would be fine. However, as Lu Kuan killed a demonic beast, he felt a strong sense of bloodthirst and hatred surging in his body. His attacks became more and more brutal, and this sense of bloodthirst gradually became stronger as he killed. It even affected his consciousness. The last demonic wolf was torn in half by Lu Kuan. After killing all the demonic beasts, that sense of bloodthirst actually turned toward Xiao Jin. Fortunately, the wooden bracelet on his chest emitted a cool aura, waking him up. Lu Kuan was inexplicably shocked. It was most likely the demonic aura in his body that caused this change in him. Therefore, after the battle, Lu Kuan kept the Yao flames burning on his arm. He wanted to use up all the demonic aura as soon as possible. Although this state of bloodthirst greatly increased his combat power, it would also affect his consciousness. Moreover, he would attack Xiao Jin. Lu Kuan would not take such a big risk for this little bit of combat power. It was better to use up all the demonic aura and condense his transcendence energy again. Moreover, his spirit root had appeared today. Then, Lu Kuan did not care about the dumbfounded Shen Mingyao at the side. His whole body emitted a yellow glow, and outside the glow, a yellow flame burned. He began to run wildly around the small forest, his speed getting faster and faster. As for Xiao Jin, his eyes kept moving around, looking at Lu Kuan in confusion. He was somewhat puzzled, but his expression did not seem to be affected by the bloodthirst in the demonic aura at all. Not long after, Lu Kuan changed his clothes and reappeared in Shun Mingyao's field of vision. He said to her tiredly, "Fairy Shun, I've used up all my energy and need to recover my transcendence energy. I'll have to trouble Fairy Shun to set up an isolation array." Then, he thought of something and took out an empty storage bag. He threw it to Shun Mingyao and said, "Fairy Shun, I'll have to trouble you to clean up the corpses of the demonic beasts. We'll split them equally. Hee, this is a large sum of spirit stones." Shun Mingyao looked at Lu Kuan, whose mouth was faintly drooling, and was speechless for a while. She had labeled Lu Kuan as a greedy person again. But how could she know that Lu Kuan's pockets were almost empty of spirit stones? If he stayed here for a few more days, he would probably use up all the remaining spirit stones. At that time, he would be licking his face and asking her for more. Lu Kuan carefully looked at Xiao Jin, who had not changed much, and let out a sigh of relief. He jumped to the branch of a nearby tree, held a spirit stone in his hand, and began to absorb the spirit energy and convert it into transcendence energy. Shun Mingyao was now somewhat immune to this man's mysterious technique. After setting up the isolation array, she walked to Xiao Jin's side. Looking at the little monkey, she praised, "Xiao Jin, I didn't expect your strength to be so powerful. Just now, you killed at least a few mid-tier demonic beasts." After hearing this, Xiao Jin held his head high and stuck out his chest. He even used his short stick to knock on his skinny chest. He was beaming with joy and was extremely proud. Shun Mingyao's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. Her eyes emitted some blue light. She touched the tuft of golden hair on Xiao Jin's head and said with a seductive tone, "Then Xiao Jin, since you're so powerful, can you help me collect the materials of the demonic beasts?" Xiao Jin patted his chest without hesitation and howled. Shun Mingyao's autumn eyes emitted a cunning look. A small knife appeared in her hand. From the aura it emitted, it was at least a mid-tier artifact. Then, she pulled Xiao Jin towards the group of demonic beast corpses. After a few hours, Lu Kuan's cultivation was very comfortable. When he had just started to convert his transcendence energy, he could feel the progress of his physical body. Finally, after the transcendence energy in his physical body was fully cultivated, he had indeed steadily reached the 11th level of qi refinement. Then, Lu Kuan saw Shun Mingyao lying on the ground. She was fiddling with her storage bag in boredom. Beside her, Xiao Jin was lying on the ground with a tired face. After seeing Lu Kuan, he immediately jumped over and squeaked nonstop. He even pointed at Shun Mingyao from time to time. After Lu Kuan understood, he was speechless. This demoness didn't even let the little monkey off. She used the bewitching technique to make the little monkey work for her. This was probably the reason why Xiao Jin's intelligence was similar to that of a human's. Then, he said to Shun Mingyao, "I say, Fairy Shun, why did you waste your transcendence energy to use the bewitching technique on Xiao Jin for such a small matter?" After hearing this, Shun Mingyao threw the storage bag to Lu Kuan. Her light words made Lu Kuan shut his mouth. "I'll give you all the demonic beast materials. I don't care. Since they're your materials, what's wrong with your spirit beast doing it for you?" Lu Kuan looked at the aggrieved Xiao Jin and weighed the storage bag. He changed his expression and said to Xiao Jin, "I say, Xiao Jin, just treat it as working for yourself. That's right, you seem to have killed 3 mid-level demonic wolves. Later, I'll give you all the spirit stones exchanged for these demonic wolf meat and the other materials. How about it?" Xiao Jin didn't seem to know how many spirit stones these materials could be exchanged for. However, when she heard about the demonic wolf meat, she nodded happily. Looking at the demoness who was still lying on the ground, Lu Kuan said, "Thank you, Fairy. However, we should continue on our way. Does Fairy know where the demonic beasts are sparser in the central region?" Lu Kuan and the others had encountered a small group of demonic beasts when they were near the central region. If they entered the central region, there would be more demonic beasts. Even if Xiao Jin told them the location of the demonic beasts in advance, it would be very difficult to pass through. Shen Mingyao's bright eyes glanced at Lu Kuan. Her gaze made Lu Kuan's heart beat faster. Lu Kuan had been in contact with Shen Mingyao for a few days and had also experienced 2 battles. His impression of this demoness had changed. In the past, the demoness gave him the feeling that she was full of killing intent and was abnormally ruthless. However, when they fought side by side yesterday, the demoness used 2 precious talismans to give him. She didn't know that Lu Kuan had the body resistance flying art. She wasted time and risked being swallowed by the demonic fog to save him. After the battle, she also admitted that he had saved her life and promised to give him the parchment. From these actions, it could be seen that this demoness of the miraculous gate clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. She was a person who kept her promises and wasn't a treacherous person who would turn hostile and use underhanded means. While Lu Kuan was pondering, Chen Mingyao's enchanting voice drifted over. Next, we'll head north for a bit. We'll reach the central region, where the forest and plains intersect. There are fewer demonic beasts there, but with little Gold's perception, there shouldn't be any problems. Lu Kuan was just about to continue speaking when Xiao Jin's ears suddenly twitched. He squeaked at Lu Kuan while the long staff in his hand was still drawing strokes. After hearing this, Lu Kuan's expression changed slightly. You said that there are 2 human cultivators 5 miles north? Xiao Jin nodded furiously and said a few more words. Lu Kuan understood. His eyes flashed with a fiery greed. He turned to Shen Mingyao and said, right now, there are 2 cultivators in the north who are searching for something in the forest. Xiao Jin can hear their conversation. If I'm not wrong, these 2 people are the Fu brothers. Chapter 80. 5 miles away in the forest, in an open space, 2 men gradually appeared, carefully looking around. These 2 men looked very similar. They were the Fu brothers. The one with a mole on his face was the older brother Fu Wenbo, and the other was the younger brother Fu Wenguang. After seeing that there were no demon beasts around, the younger brother Fu Wenguang said, "This is an intermediate level invisibility technique. The duration is too short. It has already ended." The older brother Fu Wenbo vigilantly looked around and whispered, "That can't be helped. We have to be careful. The information about the black horn snake is from many years ago. I'm afraid it is now a top-level demon beast." Fu Wenguang's eyes lit up, pleasantly surprised. If that's the case, after we get the demon beast materials, we can ask a refining master for help, and the matchless rod can be promoted to a top-level spirit weapon. Fu Wenbo shook his head and said, "You think too simply. Top-level demon beasts are very powerful. Their attack power is close to a top-level spirit weapon, and their defense is also very high. Even if it is an early top-level demon beast, I'm afraid our strongest attack will have to hit it several times. If there are 2 of them, we have no chance of winning. So now we are only using the invisibility talisman to find the location of the blackhorn snake." Fu Wenguang also felt that he was too naive and did not continue to speak. He released the invisibility technique again and followed his brother slowly into the depths of the forest. Fu Wenguang found that his brother suddenly stopped. His face was pale as he looked at a beast not far in front of him. This beast was a badger-type demon beast, about 2 feet tall and 6 feet long. Its entire back was covered with white fur, and the rest of its body was black. The fur on its body was very dark, and its head was completely black, forming a triangular shape. Its 4 limbs were abnormally thick, and the most eye-catching part was its sharp claws, each of which was as long as the sole of the foot and thicker than the sole of the foot. Presumably, it was its most powerful weapon. Looking at the beast and the frightened look in his brother's eyes, Fu Wenguang finally remembered the name of this beast, Fierce Badger Beast. Speaking of the Fierce Badger Beast, many Xiaxianists had heard of it. This kind of demon beast was born as a Class 1 lower-ranked demon beast. After being born, they would kill each other, and in the end, only one would survive. This kind of demon beast could be said to be the most ferocious of all the demon beasts known to Xiaxianists. When its ferocious nature was unleashed, it would crazily attack when facing a stronger opponent. It was never timid. It was a metal attribute demon beast, and its attack was also very powerful. However, this wasn't the most frightening aspect of the fierce badger beast. The most frightening aspect of the fierce badger beast was its fighting nature. Every fierce badger beast could keenly sense its opponent's weakness during battle. The one in front of the Fu brothers was emitting the aura of a top-tier demonic beast. Facing a demonic beast that was born for battle, they didn't dare to make any moves. However, the fierce badger beast didn't seem to have noticed them. Its nose twitched a few times, and its eyes revealed an excited expression. It quickly ran towards a place in the forest. The Fu brothers looked at each other and understood each other's intentions, so they followed. The fierce badger beast also had a special characteristic, and that was that it liked to eat snakes. No matter what kind of snake it wouldn't even let go of a demon snake that was stronger than them by a small realm. Looking at the fierce badger beast's expression, it was very likely that it was here to catch a snake. If it caught a blackhorn snake, it would only eat the snake. It definitely wouldn't be interested in the blackhorn snake. The opportunity has come. The Fu brothers thought in their hearts, so they followed the fierce badger beast. Gradually, the Fu brothers followed the fierce badger beast to an underground cave. From afar, they could see a top-tier demon beast squatting on the side of the cave. It blended in with the black soil, and if one didn't look carefully, they would think that it was just a piece of strange white grass. Could it be that the blackhorn snake has really become a top-tier demon beast? The two brothers saw that the fierce badger beast had set up an ambush, so it was very likely that the blackhorn snake had become a top-tier demon beast. At this moment, the two of them had completely hidden themselves behind a tree in the distance and were completely focused on the demon snake's lair. Not long after, they discovered that a top-tier demon beast had emerged from the lair. This demon snake was about as thick as an ordinary person's thigh. Its entire body was black, and there were many gray circular patterns on its body. Every inch of its body was covered in hard scales. Presumably, even a high-tier magic tool would be unable to break through its scales. The most eye-catching feature of this blackhorn snake was the black horn on its head. It was about half a foot long and looked very sharp. The blackhorn snake seemed to be slithering towards the Fu brothers. Just as the blackhorn snake emerged from the cave, the fierce badger beast moved. In the distance, the Fu brothers saw a flash of white light. The fierce badger beast had bitten the blackhorn snake's weak point. This bite broke through the blackhorn snake's defenses, and snake blood flowed out from the weak point. The moment the blackhorn snake was bitten, it began to struggle. The black horn on its head fiercely stabbed at the fierce badger beast behind it. However, although the fierce badger beast's fur looked dull, it was thick and smooth. The blackhorn snake was unable to injure the fierce badger beast. After the blackhorn snake counterattacked, it lost all signs of life. It had been bitten to death by the fierce badger beast. Just as the fierce badger beast was about to close its mouth, a black light flashed out from the cave and sent it flying, causing it to roll on the ground twice. It turned out that there was a second top-tier demon snake in the snake cave. It had directly attacked the fierce badger beast with the power of a top-tier magic tool. Who would have thought that the fierce badger beast would only shake its head and crawl up from the ground? It quickly rushed towards the blackhorn snake, as if the previous attack had been unable to injure it. At that moment, Fu Wenbo suddenly gave his younger brother, Fu Wenguang, a look. Fu Wenguang was stunned, and a trace of confusion appeared in his eyes. However, he still nodded, and the two of them began to slowly retreat. They left this place and walked towards the outer region. After walking for about 5 miles, Fu Wenbo stopped and said to his somewhat doubtful younger brother, "If we hadn't left before, we might have already been killed by the fierce badger beast." Fu Wenguang said in surprise, "It can't be. The fierce badger beast didn't even notice us." Fu Wenbo looked at the high-tier defensive talisman in his hand and said with some lingering fear, "Didn't you notice? The blackhorn snake left its nest not long after we arrived. Moreover, its direction was in our direction. The place where the fierce badger beast was lying in ambush just happened to be the blackhorn snake's blind spot. This means that the fierce badger beast had already discovered us." The reason why it didn't kill us was because it wanted to use us as bait to lure the snake out of its hole. Fu Wenguang recalled the situation at that time. It was indeed so. He couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat and asked, "Then what do we do now? Will the fierce badger beast chase after us?" Fu Wenbao recalled the immortal cultivator's record of it and calmly said, "After the fierce badger beast catches snake food, it will immediately eat it. After it is full, it will return to its nest to rest. We will wait for about half an hour and then go look for the black horn snake that it doesn't eat." Fu Wenguang breathed a sigh of relief and then said with some ecstasy, "Then this is really our opportunity. We didn't suffer any losses, and we obtained a top-tier demonic beast material." Fu Wenbao was just about to say something when his heart suddenly throbbed. He immediately activated the defensive talisman in his hand, and a yellow shield protected the two brothers. Just as he finished this action, a figure appeared beside them. A silver sledgehammer ruthlessly smashed on top of the shield and broke the high-tier defensive spell. The Fu brothers' reaction was also very fast. In the time that the defensive spell bought, they very tacitly took out a pile of talismans. One of them threw it at the front of the sneak attacker, and the other threw it at his legs. 10 fireballs and 7 or 8 icicles attacked the tall and sturdy man holding the silver sledgehammer. The sledgehammer emitted a white and red flame, blocking the fireballs. However, the burly man was also pushed back by the explosion of the fireballs, and his legs were also frozen by the icicles. At this time, the Fu brothers had already taken out their peerless rod and directly used their magic tool fusion skill. A huge red and black rod instantly appeared and attacked the burly man who was temporarily unable to move. The burly man laughed loudly. His eyes flashed with a golden light, and his whole body was suffused with a red light. The muscles on his arms bulged like steel, and he raised the silver sledgehammer in his hand and smashed it at the giant rod. "Oh!" A loud sound rang out. The leaves on the surrounding trees were shaken, and the giant rod was actually sent flying by the smaller sledgehammer. Not far away, the Fu brothers, who were connected to their magic tools, both spat out a mouthful of blood and shouted in unison, "Impossible!" When they were ambushed, they recognized that the attacker was Lu Kuan. In the battle in the passage, they had seen Lu Kuan's attack and movement skills. The Fu brothers had discussed a countermeasure. Thus, one of them used a fireball talisman to repel the opponent, while the other used an icicle talisman to restrict Lu Kuan's movement skills. Then, they used their combined peerless rod to attack. But what they didn't expect was that Lu Kuan's strength had increased by leaps and bounds. He was actually able to use a high-tier magic tool to send their combined peerless rod flying. Moreover, there was a powerful recoil from the magic tool. In just one attack, their internal organs were heavily injured. Lu Kuan looked at the silver hammer in his hand and was somewhat shocked. He relied on his 11th layer magic power and his strengthened arms to be confident in receiving this attack. But he didn't expect that this hammer was not only made of hard materials, but after it was infused with magic power, it exploded with a huge amount of brute force. It directly sent the peerless rod flying and heavily injured the Fu brothers. After understanding the power of the weapon in his hand, Lu Kuan revealed a ferocious smile. A white flame appeared in his hand, and he wiped it at his feet. The icicle was destroyed, and he disappeared on the spot. After the Fu brothers were injured, they had a bad premonition. They immediately stood back to back and separated their giant rods into black and red rods. They began to rotate in front of them. The other two each took out a high-tier defensive magic tool. As long as the peerless rod wasn't combined, they could still use another magic tool. Immediately after, Lu Kuan appeared beside them. The silver hammer began to unceasingly pound the Fu brothers' magic tools. His posture and movements were no different from when Lu Kuan was refining fine iron in the tool refining pavilion. Every strike caused the Fu brothers' faces to become paler. Chapter 81. After the Fu brothers fell, Lu Kuan first picked up the two defensive magic tools on ground. They were both high-grade defensive shields, and he happily put them into his storage bag. Then, with a flushed face, he observed the two high-grade magic tools on the ground. One was completely black, about 4 feet long, and densely covered in patterns. Both ends of the long staff were engraved with formation runes. The other staff was completely dark red. The patterns and runes on it were completely different from the black staff. Moreover, the red staff would occasionally emit some light. Lu Kuan first picked up the black staff and slowly poured his magic power into it. The black light became brighter and brighter. Lu Kuan waved his hand and hit a nearby tree. With a boom, several cracks appeared on the tree. With a light touch, it shattered into several pieces and fell down. Lu Kuan looked at the black staff's power and recalled the scene in the passage where the combined staff shattered his entire body's elemental fire shield. He muttered to himself, "So the black staff's power is the power of vibration. It can vibrate magic power and is very useful against magic power shields." After muttering to himself, Lu Kuan picked up the red stick. As soon as his hand touched it, Lu Kuan felt that the stick was burning hot all over. He thought for a moment, and with the injection of magic power, the whole stick emitted a red light. Moreover, it became even hotter. Lu Kuan had no choice but to stimulate the primordial fire shield to slightly block it. The elemental fire shield and the red staff seemed to be somewhat compatible. Lu Kuan's hand was protected by the elemental fire shield, so he couldn't feel any heat. Then, he activated the elemental fire in his hand. At this time, because Lu Kuan's arm was strengthened, the elemental fire was already more than half white. Presumably, when he reached the great circle of qi refining, it would be completely white. At that time, the power of the elemental fire would definitely reach the power of the giant arm. After the elemental fire covered the entire red staff, a terrifying wave of fire energy rushed out from the staff and intertwined with the elemental fire. This red staff should have been forged from a special type of flint. The power of the fire energy was contained within. When it attacked the opponent, it had the power to melt gold and forge iron. Now that Lu Kuan's elemental fire had enveloped the red staff, the heat within the flint was immediately released, greatly increasing its power. At this time, Shen Mingyao and Xiao Jin came from not far away. Previously, they had followed the Fu brothers. Who knew that Xiao Jin would say that they were running towards them? So, just in case, Lu Kuan used body defense flying technique to chase after them and obstruct them first. When he saw the Fu brothers stop in the distance with his golden eyes, he retracted his divine sense fluctuations and cast an invisibility technique on himself. He then continuously used the exploding essence steps to attack. Shen Mingyao looked at the corpses of the Fu brothers on the ground and sighed. These Fu brothers, when they were together, their strength was not inferior to mine. I didn't expect that they would be killed by a nameless rogue cultivator like you. You've reached the 11th level of qi refining? Previously, Lu Kuan did not actively activate his magic power, so Shen Mingyao did not notice. Now that she saw him inject his magic power into the unparalleled staff, she was able to see it. Lu Kuan nodded and replied, "I just broke through today. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to successfully kill the two brothers." Shen Mingyao was very surprised that Lu Kuan could break through to the 11th level in the Demon Valley. The spiritual energy here was sparse. Even if one had spirit stones, it was almost impossible to break through. Therefore, after Zhang Tu entered this place, he definitely would not have taken a foundation establishment pill. Lu Kuan was still studying the unparalleled staff. Right now, he had two staffs. The black staff had the power of vibrating magic power. When combined with his brute force, its power would definitely be far greater than the Fu brothers. The red staff could also be combined with his primordial fire to increase its power. He did not feel wrong. These two weapons could be said to be tailor-made for him. Next, he tried to combine the two staffs. He continuously injected magic power into them to make the two staffs intersect. The result was only a series of knocking sounds. There were no signs of them combining. Seeing Lu Kuan continuously colliding the two staffs, Shen Mingyao laughed and said with disdain, "Someone like you will never be able to use that combination technique in your entire life." Hearing this, Lu Kuan knew that the witch knew how to combine. He immediately said with a slightly flattering tone, "Please give me some pointers." Shen Mingyao chuckled. She pointed at the Fu brothers' storage pouches and said, "Give me half of the items in this storage pouch, and I will teach you how to combine a set of magic tools." Lu Kuan's expression changed. He took the Fu brothers' storage pouches and scanned them with his divine sense. He was stunned and said, "There are actually 10 mid-grade spirit stones, more than 200 low-grade spirit stones, and a lot of refining materials." Then, Lu Kuan said to the witch with a pained expression, "For mid-grade spirit stones, no more." Shen Mingyao crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her red lips curled as she waved her hand and said, "At least 6. I don't want the refining materials." Seeing Lu Kuan's hesitant expression, Shen Mingyao couldn't help but feel a headache and said, "How can you be so stingy? Are you a man or not? The demonic beast materials I gave you before are worth at least 2 mid-grade spirit stones." When Lu Kuan heard what the demoness said, he could only compromise. He took out 6 mid-grade spirit stones and gave them to the demoness. It was not that he was stingy. When Lu Kuan knew that spirit stones were the currency of the immortal cultivation world, he had a strong understanding of the importance of spirit stones. Chen Mingyao contentedly put away the 6 mid-grade spirit stones. Then, she waved her hand at the 2 sticks. The 2 sticks floated in front of her. Then, her bright eyes focused on the 2 sticks. Her hands trembled a little as she increased the magic power of her telekinesis technique. Then, she put her hands together. The 2 staffs had already merged together, becoming a giant red and black staff. The power fluctuations were no less than her verdant spirit sword. However, after only a few breaths of time, the giant staff separated and became 2 staffs again. At this time, Shen Mingyao's face was deathly pale, as if she had used up a lot of her spirit. After a while, she explained in detail the principle of this set of magic tools. If these 2 staffs merge together, 2 conditions need to be met. First, the magic power fluctuations and the amount of magic power injected into the magic tool through the 2 telekinesis techniques must be completely the same. This is easy to achieve. The other condition is that you have to divide your spirit sense into 2 and command the telekinesis technique separately. Moreover, the 2 separate spirit sense fluctuations must be completely the same. This way, the 2 staffs won't separate in the process of attacking. Just now, I couldn't maintain the same level for a long time, so I had to separate them. The difficult part is the spirit sense. Our spirit sense, at the late Qi refining stage, can fully control a top-grade magic tool. At most, we can simultaneously control a top-grade magic tool, or 2 top-grade magic tools at the same time. However, to maintain the same level of spirit sense between the 2 is no less difficult than controlling 2 top-grade magic tools at full power. Even if you can barely do it, the combined attack speed of 2 top-grade magic tools will decrease. Only immortal cultivators like the Fu brothers, who have telepathy with each other, can each control a top-grade magic tool to maximize their power. As Shen Mingyao said this, she seemed to have thought of something. Her face revealed a bit of fear, and she said, "I once saw a cultivator at the 11th level of Qi refining use 3 or 4 top-grade magic tools at the same time. The strength of his spirit sense is truly terrifying. Presumably, with that kind of spirit sense, he can still freely use a set of top-grade magic tools." After listening to Shen Mingyao's description, Lu Kuan thought to himself, "First of all, with the talent of my mutated spiritual roots, I can inject my body's transcendence energy into the unparalleled staffs to ensure that they are completely the same. Second, I never use telekinesis technique to attack. I only use my hands." Shen Mingyao watched as Lu Kuan lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then, he picked up the 2 unparalleled staffs. Waves of transcendence energy emerged from his body, and he began to inject transcendence energy into the staffs. His hands very slowly moved closer to the center. Shen Mingyao shook her head, turned around, and walked away. Even if Lu Kuan's secret technique was miraculous, his spirit sense was too weak. It was simply impossible for him to complete it. But the expected knocking sound did not come. Shen Mingyao curiously turned around to take a look. Her slender, jade-like hands covered her slightly open mouth, and she stood rooted to the ground in astonishment. She only saw that Lu Kuan was holding a huge red and black staff in his hands, and Lu Kuan's eyes were tightly shut, as if he was sensing something. His expression was solemn. Then the muscles on his arms began to slowly bulge. If one looked closely, they would discover that the speed at which the muscles on his two arms were changing was completely the same. Finally, the extent of the bulging of the muscles on his two arms was also almost the same. At the same time, a flame burned on Lu Kuan's arms. This white flame with a tinge of red slowly climbed up the red and black giant staff. He raised the giant staff above his head, paused for a moment, and then swung it towards the empty space in front of him. A dazzling red light accompanied by a huge roar came. Lu Kuan and Shen Mingyao at the side subconsciously closed their eyes. When they opened their eyes, there was a huge pit about 5 feet deep in the open space. The big pit was still emitting black smoke, as if it had been bombarded by a powerful fire attribute spell. The giant staff in Lu Kuan's hands disappeared without a trace and returned to two. At this moment, he was just like Shen Mingyao, extremely horrified. He did not expect that this pair of high-grade magic tools in Lu Kuan's hands could actually erupt with such a terrifying power. Lu Kuan looked at the deep pit on the ground, then looked at his own hands and recalled how he had used it just now. The object control technique of cultivators was to control the power of the magic tools. The fluctuations of the spiritual consciousness were completely consistent, so that the power of the two magic tools under the object control technique would be exactly the same. But Lu Kuan used the magic tools directly with both hands, so didn't that mean that he only needed to hold the unparalleled staff with both hands and make them completely the same power to combine them? Then, Lu Kuan used his powerful and precise muscle control to successfully combine the two magic tools. Next, he tried to test the maximum power after the combination, slowly increasing the power of his muscles and allowing the primordial fire to attach to it. As a result, he made this attack. Since Shen Mingyao and Lu Kuan entered the Demon Valley, one after another, things beyond her imagination happened one after another. At this time, when she saw this terrifying attack, her expression was somewhat numb. She sighed in her heart that this kind of attack should not be able to withstand unless it was the kind of top-ranked demon beast that focused on defense. Just as Lu Kuan and Shen Mingyao were thinking, Xiao Jin suddenly let out a cry of horror, pulling Lu Kuan and Shen Mingyao back from their thoughts. Lu Kuan looked at Xiao Jin, who had a frightened expression, and wondered, "Xiao Jin, I've never seen you so scared. What happened?" Xiao Jin danced with joy and kept calling out, which meant that it wanted to run away quickly. Chapter 82. When he didn't hear Shen Mingyao's reply, Lu Kuan looked at her suspiciously. He saw that she was frowning, her face was pale, and her mouth was slightly open. Her black eyes were filled with fear as she stared towards the west. Lu Kuan curiously looked in that direction and saw a black-backed, white-backed demonic beast slowly emerge from the forest. Its small black eyes were squinting, and its red tongue was licking its lower lip from time to time. It was like a lazy, fat cat taking a stroll after eating a delicious meal. However, the demonic beast's powerful demonic aura reminded Lu Kuan that this was a top-tier demonic beast. He had never seen a demonic beast of this level before. The top-tier demonic beast seemed to have felt Lu Kuan's gaze and turned to look at him. When Lu Kuan's eyes met with the demonic beast's, all the hairs on his body immediately stood on end. An alarm seemed to ring in his heart. Danger. Extremely dangerous. No wonder Xiao Jin wanted to run away. When I looked at it, I felt extreme danger, as if I was standing next to a cliff. Lu Kuan became vigilant and unconsciously tightened his grip on the long staff. At this moment, Shin Mingyao seemed to have felt Lu Kuan's uneasiness. She grabbed Lu Kuan's arm with her soft, jade-like hand and lightly drew on it a few times. Her meaning was for Lu Kuan to relax and not act rashly. This demonic beast was the demonic beast that the Fu brothers had seen. In its heart, it absolutely couldn't allow the bait to run away. Therefore, it followed the Fu brothers' aura and came over. Lu Kuan and the others were here, so it didn't care too much. After glancing at them, it looked away and looked at the Fu brothers' corpses. It then walked over and sniffed. When it found that the two were already dead, it turned around and walked back. Lu Kuan and the others didn't dare to act rashly. At this moment, Xiao Jin seemed to have breathed in some dust and couldn't help but sneeze. The demonic beast suddenly turned around and stared at the sneezing Xiao Jin. It sniffed and smelled something. Its eyes flashed with an ominous glint and it rushed over. Lu Kuan saw that this battle was unavoidable and suppressed the fear in his heart. He released a magical barrier around himself and held the black and red staves that he had just obtained. His entire body emitted a red glow as he met the demonic beast. The demonic beast was originally rushing toward Xiao Jin, but when it saw Lu Kuan in front of it, its small black eyes flashed with an ominous glint. It aimed its claws at Lu Kuan's chest and attacked. Lu Kuan suddenly poured magic power into the set of high-grade magic tools. Primordial fire enveloped the red staves, and the black staves shone with a black light as they attacked the two claws. The power of the two staves' attack had already surpassed the combined attack of the Fu brothers. Who would have thought that the demonic beast's body would shrink and curl up into a ball like a hedgehog? Lu Kuan felt that the two rods were very slippery when they hit the area where the rods had curled up. Lu Kuan felt that it was very slippery and did not exert any force at all. The two rods slashed across its curled-up body. At this moment, the demonic beast suddenly stretched out its body. Its front two demonic claws actually attacked the little brother underneath, Lu Kuan. He did not expect this demonic beast to be so sinister. Fortunately, Lu Kuan was prepared for his next move. The exploding essence steps on his legs were already ready. Borrowing the magic barrier's momentary obstruction, he quickly disappeared from his original position. After the demonic beast missed its attack and landed on the ground, it fiercely exerted strength in its legs. Its figure flashed as it closely followed Lu Kuan. Its speed actually matched the speed of the exploding essence steps. Lu Kuan used the exploding essence steps several times in succession. However, he discovered that he was unable to open up the distance between them. The demonic beast's front claws were constantly aimed at the vital parts of his lower body. However, after dodging a few times, the unparalleled staves had already returned to his side. Lu Kuan decided not to dodge anymore. He crossed his staves, and a black and red light alternated, blocking the relentless demonic beast's claws. Immediately after, Lu Kuan felt an enormous force pass through his hands. The demonic beast's simple attack was actually not inferior to the attack of a chi-refining cultivator's top-grade magic tool. Lu Kuan's legs were like iron pillars as he stood upright on the ground. The primordial fire barrier around his body shone brightly, fiercely resisting this force. The demonic beast's small black eyes revealed a trace of surprise. Immediately after, the demonic beast's black hind legs kicked towards Lu Kuan's crossed staves. The demonic beast's entire body made a somersault. The two demonic claws on its back emitted a golden light and carried an unstoppable force as they bombarded the staves. At this moment, Lu Kuan was no longer able to resist this force. The primordial fire barrier around his body dimmed for a moment before he was sent flying. At the same time that Lu Kuan rushed out, Shin Mingyao and Xiao Jin retreated together. Seeing this man and demonic beast exchange blows, she quickly took out her verdant spirit sword. However, Lu Kuan and the demonic beast's speed suddenly soared. Her verdant spirit sword simply couldn't keep up with their speed. Moreover, she was afraid of accidentally injuring Lu Kuan. When Lu Kuan blocked the demonic beast's claw attack, Shin Mingyao's beautiful eyes lit up. She poured all of her transcendence energy into her verdant spirit sword. The moment the demonic beast somersaulted in the air, it gave her the opportunity to attack. Her verdant spirit sword suddenly turned into a sword light and directly attacked the demonic beast in the air. Although the demonic beast was in the air, it had already sensed the attack of the verdant spirit sword. Its entire body curled up and used its smooth and thick back to block this attack. However, its entire demonic body was still sent flying by Shun Mingyao's all-out attack. The verdant spirit sword's sword light immediately rushed up from below, attempting to pierce the demonic beast's vital point in its abdomen. The demonic beast discovered that it was unable to dodge in the air. Its eyes were filled with an intense, ominous glint. It directly used its two claws that were suffused with golden light to slap at the verdant spirit sword. With a clang, the verdant spirit sword was blocked by the golden light. Then, the golden light shone brightly, knocking this supreme grade magic tool down. Moreover, this pair of claws seemed to contain an enormous amount of demonic energy, scattering the transcendence energy within. Shun Mingyao's transcendence energy was linked to the verdant spirit sword. Spitting out some blood, she recalled the damaged magic tool. Although the verdant spirit sword was sent flying and Shun Mingyao, who was controlling the magic tool, was slightly injured, the demonic beast's falling body was also stopped by the force of this attack. It paused in the air for a moment. At this moment, Lu Kuan's entire body emitted a bright red light. He appeared under the demonic beast's body. Both of his hands were holding a giant red and black staff. The surface of the giant staff was burning with an explosive and scorching flame. Lu Kuan's mouth, which had a trace of blood, let out an angry roar. The muscles on both of his arms swelled to the maximum. He ruthlessly smashed the giant staff in his hands towards the demonic beast that was caught off guard. When the demonic beast saw this earth-shattering attack, it was unable to dodge. It could only shrink its head into its abdomen and curl up its entire body to protect the vital points in its abdomen. Then, its white back was hit by this earth-shattering attack. At the same time, the flames on the surface of the giant staff also surged and exploded. The force of the explosion and the giant staff's ability to overturn the sea and move mountains sent the demonic beast flying into the distance. Lu Kuan was also hit by the rebound force of this attack and fell to the ground. He quickly got up, put away the twin staff, and picked up Xiao Jin and Shen Mingyao, who was struggling slightly. He activated the body-controlling flying technique and madly ran into the distance. However, the direction he was running towards was the central region. Just as Lu Kuan was running, the demonic beast's angry roar came from the distant forest. Then, the demonic beast rushed out of the forest. At this moment, the white fur on its back was already charcoal black. The fur in the depths of its body was not damaged, but there was a trace of blood at the corner of its mouth. It was injured by the shock force of the twin staff. Its breath had become somewhat weak, but its eyes were filled with ferocity and irritation. It flew towards the direction where Lu Kuan was running at a speed that was not inferior to the body-controlling flying technique. Lu Kuan, who had already run a distance, did not put Xiao Jin into the storage bag because he wanted it to listen carefully for the demonic beast's whereabouts. At this moment, Shun Mingyao's head was resting on Lu Kuan's chest. Her arms were wrapped around Lu Kuan, and Xiao Jin was sandwiched between the two of them. Lu Kuan was not in the mood to feel the gentle touch of the beauty in his arms. Instead, he was worried about the monstrous beast that he had just fought. Although in the course of the battle, Lu Kuan and Chun Ming Yao had found a flaw in this terrifying top-level monstrous beast, and under a series of coordinated attacks, it had been sent flying. However, Lu Kuan felt that the strongest attack of his peerless staff had not been able to kill it at all. Most likely, it had not even seriously injured it. On the other hand, he and Shun Mingyao had been easily injured by it. His current transcendence energy could at most use his strongest attack once more. However, after using it, he might not be able to kill the opponent. On the other hand, he did not have any transcendence energy left to escape, So he took advantage of the moment when the demonic beast was sent flying and quickly retreated. After running for a while, Lu Kuan released a magic shield around himself to block the fierce wind. He shouted to Xiao Jin, "Xiao Jin, listen carefully. Is that demonic beast chasing after us?" Xiao Jin was in incomparable pain from being squeezed by the two of them. Hearing this, it still carefully listened. Behind it, it revealed a terrified expression and squeaked twice. "What? It's following behind us. Its speed is even slightly faster than mine." After Lu Kuan heard this, his expression changed greatly. He urged his transcendence energy, and his speed continued to increase. Lu Kuan turned around and asked Shenming Yao, "Fairy Shun, looking at your expression, you should know what kind of demonic beast this is. Can you introduce it to us?" At this moment, Shenming Yao's face was white with a tinge of red. The corner of her mouth was bleeding, and there was an indescribable delicate beauty to her. When she heard Lu Kuan's question, she lightly sighed and replied, "This demonic beast is very famous among Qi practitioners." Following this, Shenming Yao gave Lu Kuan a basic introduction of the fierce badger. Just like this fierce badger just now, it has reached the level of a top-tier demonic beast. If it goes crazy, even Foundation establishment stage cultivators would not be able to kill it in a short period of time. Moreover, its temperament is extremely fierce. If you provoke it, it will madly attack you. No matter how strong you are, it will chase after you with no regard for its life. It is abnormally fierce. After hearing this, Lu Kuan secretly sighed in his heart. He said, "I didn't think that there would be such a terrifying demonic beast here. Why did it just look at the Fu brothers' bodies and then leave?" At this time, Xiao Jin began to cry. After Lu Kuan heard this, he understood the whole story. He also heard that the black horn snake's black horn could be upgraded to the unparalleled rod. Then, he estimated the fierce badger's speed and came up with a plan. Chapter 83. Lu Kuan's original location was still some distance away from the central region. There were forests and grasslands here. At first, Lu Kuan ran through the grasslands. At that time, his speed was faster than the vicious badger. Now that he wanted to reach the black horn snake's lair, he had to run through the forest. There were many trees in the forest, so he had to change directions from time to time. Thus, he couldn't keep up with the vicious badger's speed. Unless Lu Kuan used the essence exploding steps, but with Shenming Yao and Xiao Jin on him, it was extremely difficult to use the essence exploding steps. Thus, the vicious badger closed the distance between them and the vicious badger in the forest. Fortunately, under the guidance of Xiao Jin and Shenming Yao, Lu Kuan took a detour through the grasslands and almost didn't walk through the forest. Thus, they were able to leave the vicious badger a few miles behind them. Only with the vicious badger's exceptionally vicious and vengeful temperament would they be able to chase after them. Although Lu Kuan's group took a longer detour, their running speed was extremely fast. After about an hour, Lu Kuan arrived outside the black horn snake's lair. He saw a sinister black horn snake head. There were some teeth marks on the scales where the snake head had been cut off. Even though only the snake head was left, the black horn was emitting a strange fluctuation. On the other side was a rather complete corpse of the black horn snake. There were 5 bloody holes at its 7 inches, as if it had been pierced by some kind of sharp claws. Seeing the wounds of these 2 top-tier Yao beasts, Lu Kuan had a further understanding of the vicious badger's strength. The current corpse showed that the vicious badger had stopped after eating the first snake. Perhaps it was bored or wanted to move around to help with digestion, so it went to look for the Fu brothers. Then, it inexplicably fought with Lu Kuan's group. Lu Kuan didn't continue to observe. He took out his storage pouch and said to Shenming Yao, who was still hugging him, "I'll have to trouble Fairy Shun to cut off the snake head and then cut the corpse into 5 pieces. I don't have such a sharp, high-grade magic tool." Shenming Yao's face was slightly red. She got down from Lu Kuan's body and didn't say anything. She waved her hand, and a few streaks of azure sword light flashed. The black horn snake's corpse was already cut into 5 pieces. Although this top-tier Yao beast defense was extremely strong, its corpse was unable to block the edge of the Azure Spirit Sword. Lu Kuan's other hand held a bottle magic tool. He placed it on top of the snake's corpse and injected magic power into it. The snake's blood was slowly sucked into it. This kind of bottle magic tool was one of the most common basic magic tools used by immortal cultivators. It could store large amounts of liquids, as well as cultivators, primordial spirits, and Yao souls. As the magic tool's grade increased, it could even store the lightning in the sky. Just as Lu Kuan was collecting the snake blood, Xiao Jin hurriedly jumped down. Its face was full of excitement as it reached its claws into a cut. It grabbed a large green snake gallbladder and swallowed it. Its monkey face was filled with intoxication and satisfaction. After Lu Kuan finished collecting the snake blood, his hand flashed with magic. He put the 2 snake heads and 5 snake corpses into his storage pouch. Then, he put the dizzy Xiao Jin into his arms and carried the shy Shenmeng Yao. He began to run for his life again. He left the forest and ran towards the west. This time, the direction he was running towards was very obvious. It was the direction of the central region. Not long after Lu Kuan left the forest, a ferocious badger beast emitting a brutal aura appeared here. It sensed the black-horned snake's demonic aura, but it couldn't see the demon snake's corpse. The ferocious badger beast was extremely angry. It faced the sky and let out a roar. The ferocious light in its eyes became even more intense. Then, it sniffed and smelled the aura of the group of people it was chasing. It confirmed that they were the ones who stole its favorite snake meat. Then, its 4 limbs flashed with a golden light. It stomped on the ground and chased after Lu Kuan at an even faster speed. A few trees that blocked its path were directly cut down by a golden light. This ferocious badger beast actually didn't use its full strength in the chase just now. Lu Kuan heard this roar full of anger from afar. After Xiao Jin heard it, it shivered and woke up. It immediately informed Lu Kuan of the change in the ferocious badger beast's speed. Lu Kuan felt the remaining Fa Li in his body and calculated a little. If he didn't care about the cost of using Fa Li, he could barely reach the central region. Even with the current speed of the ferocious badger beast, it would still need to reach the edge of the central region to catch up to him. At this moment, if one were to look down from the sky, they would see a cloud of dust and a golden figure chasing in the plains. During this period of time, any demon beast that encountered them would feel the aura of the fierce badger beast behind them and avoid them. What a joke! Those demon beasts with some consciousness knew that the ferocious badger beast was crazy and unreasonable. Furthermore, looking at how it was using all of its strength, it must have entered a state of madness. It would have nothing better to do than to join in the fun. Just like this, Lu Kuan approached the central region without any demon beasts disturbing him. The central region of the spiritual demon valley is quite large. It's about 40 miles in radius and occupies almost half of the entire spiritual demon valley. In the center of the central region, there's a river that divides it into 2 halves. If one looked from the sky, they would find that the southern part of the central region is a large forest, and the northern part is a lush grassland. The intersection of the forest and grassland divides the central region into 2 halves. At the border between the north and south, at the edge of the forest, there were 4 pairs of footprints on the soft black soil. They were walking forward. Suddenly, a man in red appeared. He frowned and looked behind him. Immediately after, 3 other people appeared. They were the 4 cultivators of the Yang clan. Among them, the yellow-clothed, fat Yufeng asked, "Senior Huang, what's wrong? Is there a situation?" The red-clothed Huang Fei didn't answer. Instead, he asked another disciple of the refining peak, Junior Chun, "Did you also feel something?" Chun Yin heard this and closed his eyes to feel it. He said, "Senior Chun, are you talking about the tremors of the ground?" The middle-aged man who loves to drink, Han Tiancho, asked curiously, "Senior Chun, we don't need to play games? Just tell us what's going on." Huang Fei looked at their puzzled faces and explained, "As you all know, the disciples of our weapon refining peak have to cultivate a kind of body-sensing secret technique. That way, when we're refining weapons, we can use our bodies to sense things that our divine sense can't. Just now, I felt two tremors coming from afar. The refining peak disciple, Chun Yin, closed his eyes and said, "One is strong and the other. Oh no, they're getting closer." Huang Fei didn't expect that the two tremors would come so close to them in such a short time. It was too late to run now. They looked at each other and used their invisibility techniques. One of their hands held several talismans, and the other hand clutched their storage pouches. Immediately, a cloud of dust appeared in the distance and rushed towards them. They scanned the area with their divine senses and found an unfamiliar man with a burly figure in the middle of the cloud of dust. His eyes flashed with golden light, as if he could see through their invisibility technique from afar. He was holding an enchanting woman in his arms. Although they didn't know what the man's goal was, the man's running speed was comparable to a flying magic tool. It was enough to make the 4 cultivators of the Yang clan fearful. Lights of various colors flashed as they activated their defensive talismans. Then, they took out their magic tools. The strange man also moved. He was holding something in his hand. He used his right arm to throw something towards the 4 people of the Yang sect. His speed was very fast. Coupled with the man's sudden movement, the 4 people couldn't dodge it at all. Fortunately, Huang Fei's dermic powers were profound. He had already raised his small golden hammer to block this suspected hidden weapon. This small golden hammer was a supreme-grade dermic artifact. Huang Fei was extremely confident that he could block this hidden weapon. However, he did not know that the strange man wanted them to destroy this thing. Sure enough, the small bottle was smashed the moment it collided with the small golden hammer. A large amount of blood spurted out from the bottle. These people had defensive barriers and weren't drenched in blood. However, the offensive magic tools outside were stained with blood. The man took advantage of the time when they were stunned to exert strength with his feet. He carried the enchanting woman and turned into a cloud of dust, running away madly. The 4 Yang clan disciples looked at each other in dismay. They didn't understand the man's intention. However, they soon saw a demonic beast with 4 limbs flashing with golden light appear in front of them. This demonic beast's back was slightly charred, so it looked like a black feline demonic beast. Its small black eyes emitted a ferocious light as it stared at the 4 cultivators of the Yang clan. Or rather, it recognized their magic tools. Han Tianqiu had been carrying out missions for many years and had seen many things. The moment he saw this demonic beast, his expression changed greatly. He cried out involuntarily, "Fierce badger beast! Fierce badger beast!" Huang Fei cried out at the same time. At this moment, he revealed an expression of fear and surprise. When the others heard this, they also recalled the information about fierce badger beasts in their sect. Their faces turned pale. Seeing this fierce badger beast fiercely staring at them, the disciples of the Yang clan cursed the man in their hearts. They clearly saw that the blood was attracting it. Although this top-grade demonic beast's aura was somewhat weak, it was still a fierce badger beast. A fierce badger beast that could fight crazily beyond its rank. When the fierce badger beast smelled the scent of the blackhorn snake's blood, it thought that these people were in cahoots with the man who had stolen its snake meat. A ferocious light flashed in its eyes, and it directly rushed over. The people of the Yang clan had no choice but to fight. They had seen the fierce badger beast's speed. It was absolutely impossible to escape. Moreover, with the fierce badger beast's ferocious nature, if they scattered and fled, it would definitely chase them to death. At this moment, Lu Kuan's speed also slowed down. In the end, he even put down Shun Mengyao. The two of them borrowed the speed of the Imperial Wind technique to run forward. At this moment, Lu Kuan looked at his spirit beast pouch and revealed a very helpless expression. Although the fierce badger beast didn't catch up to them, Lu Kuan discovered that Xiao Jin was becoming more and more sleepy and was about to fall asleep. His heart became very anxious. His original plan was to have Xiao Jin look for groups of demonic beasts in the outskirts of the central region. He threw out the 5 snake corpses one by one. The flesh of this top-grade demonic beast was extremely attractive to other demonic beasts. If they ate the snake meat, they would definitely provoke the fierce badger beast. This would give Lu Kuan time to escape. Chapter 84. Lu Kuan was overjoyed at the thought of using only the snake's blood to get rid of the ferocious badger. He could save the rest of the black-horned snake's carcass. Shen Mingyao looked at Lu Kuan's different face and strange smile. She smiled meaningfully and said, "Lu Kuan, why did you suddenly change your appearance when you saw the Yang clan? Are you a disciple of the Yang clan?" Lu Kuan's expression stiffened, and he quickly returned to his original appearance. He stammered, "I'm just an insignificant loose cultivator. How could I be a disciple of the Yang clan? I've already offended Du Yuan Shan of the Miraculous Gate. If I offend a disciple of the Yang clan as well, I really won't be able to stay in Luzhou any longer." Shen Mingyao didn't believe Lu Kuan's nonsense at all. She was about to continue asking when she heard Lu Kuan cry out in alarm. I've used up all my transcendence energy. I have no choice but to continue running. Fairy Shun, let's continue on our way. I'll have to trouble Fairy Shun to cast a wind-riding spell for me." Shen Mingyao curled her lips. She wasn't sure if the 4 people of the Yang clan could stall the ferocious badger for too long. She could only suppress her doubts and cast a wind-riding spell for Lu Kuan. The 2 of them continued to run along the border between the forest and the grassland towards the west. At this time, the 4 people of the Yang clan were sweating profusely as they fought fiercely with the ferocious badger. Among them, Han Tianqiu's magic tool was the strangest. It was actually the kettle he used to drink wine. Moreover, it was a top-grade magic tool. The function of this artifact had nothing to do with attack or defense, but rather, it was to trap the enemy. The mouth of the flask released bursts of mist, which curled around the fierce badger beast, completely reducing its speed. If not for this, they would have already been killed by the fierce badger beast's crazy speed. Even so, they were still in imminent danger. Fatty Yufeng's high-grade flat long saber was hit by the fierce badger's demon claw, and a crack appeared on it. If it was hit a few more times, this long saber would be destroyed. Huang Fei's small golden hammer and Chen Yan's fiery red shield blocked the fierce badger's attacks again and again. However, looking at Huang Fei and Chen Yan's pale faces, it was clear that they wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. At this moment, Huang Fei was hesitating. The badger's body was made of the best materials for refining metal attribute magic items. He cultivated the metal spirit art, and his flying hammer was a pure metal attribute magic item. Therefore, the power of the flying hammer in his hands was second only to that of a Foundation Establishment cultivator. If his flying hammer was refined with the fierce badger's claws, then its power would definitely increase greatly. Huang Fei would even be able to block a normal attack from a Foundation Establishment cultivator. At that time, his strength would increase greatly, and he would be able to complete more dangerous sect missions. With his savings, he would even be able to exchange for 3 Foundation Establishment pills. Then, breaking through to the Qi refining stage would be a cinch. If he were to encounter this top-level fierce badger under normal circumstances, then he would definitely die. However, it was different now. They had 4 late-stage Qi refining cultivators, and this fierce badger had already suffered heavy injuries, causing its strength to decrease. According to his observation, the fierce badger had also consumed a lot of its demon's spiritual force. Huang Fei steeled his heart and made a decision in the blink of an eye. He eagerly said to his junior brothers, "Junior brothers, if you can help me kill this fierce badger, I only want its 4 claws. Moreover, if we can obtain a Foundation Establishment pill from this trip to the Demon Valley, I will give it to you 3 junior brothers." Hearing Huang Fei's words, everyone's eyes lit up. Huang Fei once again used all his strength to block the ferocious badger's attack. He shouted, "Junior brothers, you just need to help me block it for a moment. I can heavily injure it." The other 3 looked at each other and nodded. They each took out a top-level control talisman and threw it at the fierce badger. First, a huge vine trapped the fierce badger, then it was sealed in ice. Finally, a stone palm appeared from the ground and held the ice. Huang Fei took the opportunity to quickly retreat. At the same time, a flying needle magic tool appeared in his hand, exuding the fluctuations of a top-level magic tool. Chunyin glanced at it and exclaimed, "A top-level self-destruct magic tool." The other two were both surprised and happy. The so-called self-destruct magic tool was refined in a different way from ordinary magic tools. It needed to be inscribed with special runes. After the self-destruct magic tool was refined, it could only attack once. After the attack, the magic tool would disappear. The power of the attack would change according to the amount of magic power injected into it. The flying needle magic tool could be said to have the strongest penetrating power among the self-destruct magic tools. It was no wonder that the others were surprised. The materials of a top-level self-destruct magic tool were equivalent to a top-level magic tool, not to mention a flying needle magic tool that was extremely difficult to refine. If one wanted to inscribe runes on such a small magic tool, they would need to be at least at the mid-foundation establishment stage. If a cultivator at the peak of the chi refining stage were to use this type of flying needle to detonate their magic tool, even a foundation establishment cultivator would be killed if they were caught off guard. Therefore, when these people found out that Senior Marshal Brother Huang had such a powerful weapon, they were all shocked. It didn't take long for a golden light to appear on a rock fist. After a few breaths of time, several cracks appeared on the outermost layer of rock before it burst open. He hadn't expected that 3 peak elementary spells would only block the fierce badger for a short moment. The members of the Yang clan weren't surprised by this result, so they had already made a new move. First, an icy mist curled around the fierce badger's body. Han Tiancho had overdrawn all of his water attribute magic power to forcefully stimulate the power of the water flask. Its binding effect was much stronger than before, but with his cultivation, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Then, a flat and wide long blade and a golden long sword attacked from below the fierce badger beast, aiming straight for its vital abdomen. Even though the ice fog slowed down the fierce badger beast's speed and made it unable to dodge, with Yu Feng's 11th level Fa Li and these 2 high-grade magic items, they were simply unable to break through the defense of its abdomen. Immediately after, Shan Yinxiao's fiery red shield also arrived in front of the fierce badger. A bright light appeared in the middle of the shield, and a surge of flames shot out. This was the offensive divine ability of Shan Yinxiao's dragon shield. Although the defensive power of his top-grade magic tool was slightly lower, it was fused with a small piece of earthly firestone. When he stimulated it with all his strength, he could barely release earthly fire flames. This fierce badger was a metal attribute demon beast. Even if his earthly fire flames couldn't seriously injure it, it wouldn't feel good either. This raging flame directly wrapped the fierce badger in it. Suddenly, a huge golden light flashed in the flame, and then countless small golden needle-like things shot out. The flames extinguished, and the fierce badger's figure appeared. All the hair on its body had disappeared, leaving only a layer of brown skin with a metallic luster. It was very dazzling under the sunlight. Looking at the members of the Yang clan, Shun Yan's legs, Han Tiancho, and Yu Feng's arms, who were standing at the front, were bleeding nonstop. The small golden needles were the outermost layer of the fierce badger's hair. They were shot out by its demonic power. If it weren't for the fact that their vitals were hidden behind the Dragonfire's shield, they would have died by now. Chunyan's Dragonfire shield also dimmed after receiving more than half of the attacks. The price of trapping the ferocious badger for a short period of time was that the 3 of them had lost a lot of their Fa Li. Their injuries were not light. Fortunately, Huang Fei's spell was finally over. Before the ferocious badger could attack, a beam of light flashed past its head and disappeared into the distance. The power of the flying needle directly penetrated the fierce badger's body and disappeared into the distance. However, when Huang Fei looked closely, the fierce badger was still alive. Impossible. Huang Fei cried out involuntarily when he saw one of the fierce badger's eyes bleeding. He never would have thought that the fierce badger's battle awareness was so strong that it was able to dodge the attack in the blink of an eye. Just as the two sides were about to continue attacking, countless buzzing sounds came from the depths of the forest. It sounded like the sound of insect wings. Then, the four people and one beast saw a black mass of insects flying out from the forest. Using his divine sense, he found that these were ferocious hornets that were several inches long. They were completely black, with two black antennae and two black pincers on their heads. However, their stingers were crimson red. When the fierce badger saw these hornets, it immediately moved. Both of its claws emitted a golden light and quickly dug into the ground. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the soil. As for the Yang clan's Han Tianqiu, he also thought of something. His face was full of despair, and his eyes were lifeless as he muttered, "Fire scarlet hornets. How can they be fire scarlet hornets? How can there be such hornets in the cultivation world?" When Huang Fei heard the words fire scarlet hornets, he already knew what kind of terrifying creature it was. A talisman appeared in his hand, and he didn't hesitate to use it on himself. Then, with a flash of yellow light, he escaped into the soil. It was actually the rare Earth Escape Talisman. To make this kind of extremely difficult Earth Escape Talisman, one had to be at least a Foundation Establishment Talisman Master who was proficient in Earth Escape Talisman. It was a top-grade talisman that could save one's life. After Huang Fei escaped into the soil, the other three Yang clan disciples were drowned by the hornets. They didn't even make a sound. Huang Fei was very glad that he used the Earth Escape Talisman to escape. As one of the top disciples in Weapon Refining Mountain, his status was naturally different from the others. He had many life-saving methods. As for the fire scarlet hornets, he happened to see them when he was looking for supplementary medicines to help him advance to Foundation Establishment. It was said that each fire scarlet hornet couldn't even be considered a low-level demon beast. They could only release a stinger that contained a bit of demon spiritual energy once in a short period of time. However, the fire scarlet hornets were social insects. When they attacked, there would be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of them. Not to mention Qi condensation stage cultivators, even Foundation Establishment stage cultivators would die without a doubt. The reason why they appeared in the supplementary medicine Jade Slip was because these hornets' hives contained very little fire scarlet royal jelly. This royal jelly could greatly increase the strength of a Qi condensation stage cultivator's divine sense. When used when breaking through the bottleneck of Qi condensation stage, it could greatly increase the chances of breaking through. It had no effect on Foundation Establishment stage cultivators or higher. One could imagine how tempting this was to cultivators. Later on, there were cultivators who wanted to domesticate hornets to mass-produce fire scarlet royal jelly. But strangely, the royal jelly produced by the domesticated fire scarlet hornets was useless. Therefore, many high-level immortal cultivators, in order to increase the divine sense of their juniors with good aptitudes, plundered all the wild crimson fire royal jelly in the immortal cultivation world, and these crimson fire demon bees that desperately resisted were all killed, leading to the extinction of the crimson fire demon bees a long time ago. Chapter 85. Lu Kuan and Shun Mengyao were already close to the river in the central region. In front of them, a rippling river slowly flowed out from the lush forest next to them. Under the sunlight, it looked like a golden ribbon stretching into the depths of the grassland. The river was not too wide, about 100 feet. The water was very clear. Not only could they see the fat fish swimming in it, but they could also see a few ferocious river crabs crawling on the dark riverbed at the bottom. Shin Mingyao looked at the river not far away, but she thought to herself, "I can only swim in a while. In this way, my clothes will be soaked. Won't Lu Kuan take advantage of me?" As she thought about it, her expression became a little unnatural. Lu Kuan saw her strange expression and thought that there was something different about the river. He asked, "Fairy Shun, is there any danger in the central river of the central region?" Shen Mingyao patted her head and shook off the thought in her mind. She said, "The demonic beasts in the river are a little troublesome. For example, those harmless little fish. Once they find out that you have magic power fluctuations, they will crazily surround you and eat you. When you kill them and the smell of blood is emitted, the spirit swallowing fish in the distance will gather like a cat smelling the fishy smell. This kind of fish will devour a trace of magic power with each bite. It's okay if there are 10 of them, but if there are more than 100 of them, we cultivators in the chi refining stage will be doomed." Lu Kuan thought for a while and said, "So if we don't use magic power shields, we'll be fine?" Shen Mingyao paused for a moment and replied, "Yes." She then said, "There are no demonic beasts in the place we chose. As long as we hide our breath and swim in the water, we will be fine. The most terrifying part of this river is the small lake in the middle of the river." After all, Lu Kuan had just entered the immortal cultivation world. Even if he knew some information about the Demon Valley, he was still far from Shen Mingyao, a disciple of a sect. He listened to Shen Mingyao slowly. It turned out that the river in the spiritual Demon Valley was very strange. Most rivers had upstream and downstream, but this Demon Valley river had 2 upstream. One was the mountain in the depths of the forest, and the other was the mountain in the depths of the grassland. As for the place where the river gathered, it was the center of the entire Demon Valley. It was a rather strange small lake. There was a pure, black island on the lake. Not a single blade of grass grew on the island, and no demonic beasts dared to approach this island. As for cultivators, as long as they entered the lake, they would mysteriously disappear. It was a frightening sight. Therefore, cultivators who could come to the central region would not go near the small lake in the center. If they wanted to cross the river, they would cross from the southern or northern region. After listening, Lu Kuan breathed a sigh of relief. At the moment, he did not have any magic power. As long as he did not fight, it would be fine. Calculating the time, his spiritual root was about to disappear. After crossing the river, he would have to find a place to recover some magic power. Otherwise, he would not have the power to protect himself in the later regions. As for the demonic aura, he would not dare to absorb it unless it was absolutely necessary. After Chun Ming Yao finished speaking, she stopped by the river. In the end, under Lu Kuan's urging, she still swam towards the opposite side of the river. Chun Ming Yao cultivates a water attribute cultivation method, the water spirit art. In the water, she is like a long-haired mermaid, agile and beautiful. As for Lu Kuan, he was an avid triathlon enthusiast on Earth. Even the turbulent sea could not stop him. To him, the gentle flow of the river was not much different from the breeze on land. The two of them quickly swam across the distance of several hundred feet. In order to avoid attracting the fishes and demonic beasts in the river, Shen Mingyao did not release a magic power shield. She even restrained her magic power fluctuations. After reaching the shore, her black dress was already soaked. It clung to her delicate body, revealing her enchanting and graceful figure. In addition to the mysterious and seductive color of black, it was black. When Lu Kuan saw this, he swallowed a large mouthful of saliva. He could not help but recall the scene of Shen Mingyao bathing that day. His lower body immediately reacted. At this moment, his entire body was also soaked. His gray robe was also clinging to his body, revealing his ugly appearance. Shen Mingyao inadvertently saw Lu Kuan's reaction. Her expression was shocked and embarrassed. Her face was crimson red. She was completely different from the murderous demonic woman that Lu Kuan saw when he first met her. Just as the charming and gentle atmosphere between the two of them was subtle, on the other side of the river, a large black shadow flew out from the forest in the distance. It covered the sky and covered the earth as it flew in all directions. Lu Kuan just happened to be facing that direction. He cried out in surprise, "What is that?" After hearing this, Shen Mingyao turned around to look. It was too far away. However, it looked like some kind of flying insect. There were at least 100,000 of them. Even if they were slightly far away, they could still hear the buzzing sound. Lu Kuan channeled his divine sense into his eyes and used the golden eye ability to look into the distance. Then he said, "Hey, this massive shadows are actually ferocious demonic bees with black bodies and red tails. They're divided into dozens of groups. Not good. There's a group flying towards us. They are very fast." However, after hearing Lu Kuan's description, Shun Mingyao looked into the distance and seemed to recognize this group of demonic bees. Her face was full of fear, and her red lips muttered something. Lu Kuan hurriedly shouted to Shun Mingyao, "Fairy Shun, let's quickly hide in the river." Seeing that Shun Mingyao was in a daze, Lu Kuan directly hugged Shun Mingyao and jumped into the river. Immediately after, this group of at least 10,000 demonic bees flew across the river and disappeared from their sight. At this time, Lu Kuan slightly heaved a sigh of relief. He realized that his and Shun Mingyao's posture was quite ambiguous. Their bodies were tightly pressed together in the water. Because their clothes were tightly clinging to their bodies, Lu Kuan could feel the amazing elasticity of the demonic woman's chest. Although Lu Kuan was also hugging Shun Mingyao, everyone was running for their lives. He didn't have the time to feel the delicate body in his arms. Now that several waves of danger had passed, Lu Kuan was like a normal man. He naturally turned his attention to the delicate body of the beauty beside him. At this time, Shun Mingyao also realized that their posture was too intimate. She felt Lu Kuan's scorching gaze, and the bubbles coming out of her mouth became bigger and bigger. She immediately left the river with a flushed face. Shun Mingyao had a deep impression of Lu Kuan a long time ago after her mesmerizing art was broken by Lu Kuan's golden eye magical ability. During this trip to the Demon Valley, she had gone through thick and thin with Lu Kuan. She had a good impression of Lu Kuan. Now that she encountered such a situation, her heart was beating fast. She was very nervous and didn't have the determination to kill like before. After a while, Lu Kuan also jumped out of the water awkwardly. Then he saw Shun Mingyao with her back facing him. She was using her mana to dry her clothes. He also used his remaining mana to make the gray robe on his body loose and avoid some ugliness. Feeling the charming atmosphere, Lu Kuan coughed twice. Thinking that he had taken advantage of someone else, he said with a guilty conscience, "Fairy Shun, I wonder what the background of the hornet just now is?" Shun Mingyao heard Lu Kuan's unconfident tone and was no longer nervous. She laughed out loud and thought to herself, "So Lu Kuan is a lecherous man who doesn't have the guts to be lecherous." Hearing this laughter, Lu Kuan was a little confused. He didn't know what the demoness meant. Then Shun Mingyao turned around and looked at Lu Kuan with her watery eyes. Her red lips opened slightly and a charming voice came out. She began to introduce the Crimson Fire Hornet to Lu Kuan. When Lu Kuan saw the demoness eyes, he couldn't help but feel a little shaken. He almost thought that he had been bewitched again. Shun Mingyao's description made his face turn serious. He lowered his head and pondered. After Shun Mingyao finished her introduction, she seemed to have thought of something. Her face showed a little surprise. Lu Kuan looked at Shun Mingyao's expression and said to her, "I think Fairy Shun has some answers in your heart. To be able to sneak into the depths of the forest and steal the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly, other than the rogue Cultivator Pan Shu, who is proficient in the Earth Escape technique, I'm afraid there are no other cultivators in this Demon Valley." Shun Mingyao nodded and said, "That's right. But even if we know, it's useless. With our strength, there's no way to break his Earth Escape technique." Lu Kuan said confidently, "With my speed, it's not difficult to catch up with his Earth Escape technique." Shun Mingyao certainly knew about Lu Kuan's abnormal running speed. If it weren't for his speed, they would have died several times. But she still frowned and said, "Your speed can catch up with him, but it doesn't mean that you can catch him. Although his Earth Escape technique doesn't go deep into the earth, it has a very wonderful breath concealing technique. It can merge the breath of the caster and the earth as one." She continued, "Now Shao Jin is sleeping. With your divine sense of the middle stage of qi refining, you won't be able to find him from the surface." Lu Kuan showed a mysterious smile. Previously, when he fought with Pan Shu in the passage, he was able to escape with his Earth escape technique. At that time, his golden eyes could see the wretched figure under the surface of the Earth. In a daze, he was controlled by Du Yuanshan's magic. Looking at Lu Kuan's confident smile, Shen Mingyao knew that he had the confidence to do this kind of thing that other cultivators could not do. She had already gotten used to this person's endless means in the Demon Valley. Lu Kuan continued, "Because my divine sense is weak, I need this kind of strange thing that can increase divine sense. I think Fairy Shen also wants this very much." Shen Mingyao rolled her eyes and said, "This kind of treasure that can increase divine sense is hard to come by. Moreover, if this crimson fire royal jelly is taken in the Qi refining stage, the moment you advance to the foundation establishment stage, your divine sense cultivation will be equivalent to the middle stage of foundation establishment stage. Your combat effectiveness will be very strong." After Lu Kuan heard Shen Mingyao's words, his desire for the crimson fire royal jelly grew even more. The weakest part of his primordial fire body refining technique was his divine sense. Although he had not yet found a way to break through the foundation establishment stage, it was better to be prepared with it. Chapter 86. Lu Kuan thought for a while and said to Shen Mingyao, "The flying speed of the fire red hornets is faster than the ferocious badger, so Pan Shu must not have crossed the river yet. With his cautious personality, he must have waited for the fire red hornets to finish their crazy search and return to their nest before crossing the river. Without Pan Shu's help, Du Yuanshan would not immediately search for Zhang Tu, so we can stay here for a while. If Xiao Jin wakes up, it will be easier to find Pan Shu." Shen Mingyao nodded and agreed with Lu Kuan's analysis. Seeing her nod her head, Lu Kuan continued, "Coincidentally, there were fire red demonic bees here just now. There shouldn't be any other demonic beasts. Let's take turns to recover our mana first. I'll have to trouble you to protect me first." After listening, Shen Mingyao was stunned and said, "After talking for so long, you just want me to protect you?" Lu Kuan said embarrassedly, "Isn't Xiao Jin asleep? The hornets just chased away the other beasts. To prevent the hornets from returning, let's stay by the river at the entrance of the forest." Shen Mingyao pouted and walked towards the forest silently. Lu Kuan followed behind and said, "If Pan Shu wants to cross the river, he will most likely choose this place." Shen Mingyao did not believe that they could easily find Pan Shu here. She was too lazy to respond to Lu Kuan, so she took out a few array flags and started to set up an isolation array around the trees. Lu Kuan saw that she did not say anything, so he walked into the array and took out a fire elemental low-level spirit stone from the Fu Brothers' storage bag and started to recover his mana. Shen Mingyao saw that Lu Kuan's figure was covered by the array. She thought for a while and walked towards the river. After an unknown amount of time, the fire red hornets that flew out returned to the depths of the forest. Not far from where the Yang clan and the ferocious badger were fighting, there was a slightly tall mound. There were no weeds on this mound, and it was only a few feet tall. It was inconspicuous in the forest. After the last batch of fire red hornets flew back, this mound began to emit some yellow light. This yellow light gradually protruded and revealed a hunched and wretched figure. It was Pan Shu. At this time, Pan Shu looked at the corpses of the 3 Yang clan members not far away. His face turned pale and muttered, "This trip to the Demon Valley is too dangerous." A top-level ferocious badger appeared. Luckily, when I arrived, they were already fighting and did not notice my presence. I didn't expect the Yang clan members to be so strong. If it wasn't for that, with the ferocious badger's temper, it would have hid under the ground and would not move far away from here, or I would have been in danger. As he spoke, Pan Shu took out a bottle of magical equipment. His face revealed a proud expression. I didn't expect that there would be such a large group of fire red hornets in this Demon Valley. The Crimson Fire Royal Jelly produced is enough for 4 people. Haha, except for me, no other Qi condensation stage cultivator can steal this item. So, even if my aptitude is poor with the Foundation Establishment Pill and the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly, there's a high chance that I can successfully reach Foundation establishment. Pan Shu continued to mumble to himself. This Yang clan's Huang Fei is indeed a master of refining. Not only does he have the flying needles, but he also has the Earth Escape Talisman. He must be able to guess the reason why the Fire Red Hornets went berserk. He will definitely think that I stole the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly. Luckily, his spiritual energy is almost exhausted, and he caused such great damage to the ferocious badger. There is an 80% to 90% chance that he will escape to the outer area to recover his spiritual energy and avoid the ferocious badger. At most, I will be careful when I leave the valley. After mumbling for a long time, Pan Shu seemed to have remembered something. He slapped his head and exclaimed, "How could I forget? There are still 3 Yang clan disciples' corpses here." After he finished speaking, Pan Shu walked towards the corpses of the 3 Yang clan disciples. He looked at their corpses with incomparable greed. No, it should be the storage pouches on their waists and the few dim magical equipment that fell on the ground. Pan Shu quickly picked up these magical equipment and calculated how many spirit stones he could exchange them for. These were the magical equipment of the Yang clan disciples. Unless he smelted them again, he wouldn't dare to use them. It was better to exchange them for spirit stones. Then he scanned the 3 bulging storage pouches with his divine sense and couldn't help but smile. He weighed the 3 storage pouches and looked into the depths of the area. He murmured, "I didn't expect them to have so many upper-grade talismans and even a big killer weapon. With them, I won't be afraid of Du Yuan Shan anymore. I still need to earn more spirit stones. Then, with my current status, I can buy 2 Foundation establishment pills at a high price in the black market of those sect disciples." After he finished speaking, Pan Shu fled along the edge of the forest towards the river. Not long after, he arrived at the riverside. At this time, he found that the spirit-devouring fishes in the river were a little strange. As an experienced rogue cultivator, Pan Shu certainly heard of the horror of the spirit-devouring fishes. At this time, in a long section of the river far from the forest, the spirit-devouring fishes were very dense. There was a faint smell of blood floating out. After Pan Shu saw this, he guessed that the spirit-devouring fishes must have been frightened by the scarlet fire hornets and accidentally fell into the river. Then, it attracted a large number of spirit-devouring fishes. He looked over and found that there were no spirit-devouring fishes in the river at the edge of the forest. In addition, the water flowed from the forest to the grassland, so the smell of blood wouldn't reach here. Pan Shu walked to the riverbank near the edge of the forest. However, the cautious Pan Shu didn't directly go into the river. He thought in his heart, now that the 3 members of the Yang clan team are dead, Huang Fei can't be in the central area. Du Yuan Shan and the Fu brothers are my allies. Before the mission is completed, they won't do anything to me. Shen Mengyao and the others need to heal their wounds. Although that man's speed is extremely fast, his momentum is too big. It's impossible for him to use it in the central area. He probably hasn't entered the central area yet. As for the Yi siblings, I saw them enter a mountain in the outer area from afar. This way, no one will set an ambush for me. After thinking it through, Pan Shu's expression relaxed. He jumped into the river and began to cross. As long as he crossed the river, with his earth escape technique, no one would be able to kill him. When Pan Shu reached the other side, he slowly dried his clothes. Then, a yellow light flashed, and he activated the earth escape technique. However, the ground beneath Pan Shu's feet flickered with a blue light, and he was unable to escape. Alarmed, he immediately looked around. In his eyes, the scenery around him had changed drastically. Waves were surging, as if he was above the sea. Pan Shu saw this scene and was shocked. He shouted in shock, "Array!" After saying this, he immediately took out his best quality defensive magic tool, the giant spirit shield. His small, wretched eyes looked around nervously. Not far from the array, 2 figures, one male and one female, appeared. It was Lu Kuan and Shen Mengyao. Previously, when Lu Kuan was recovering his magic power, Shen Mengyao laid down the Jade Sea Waves array near the river near the forest. The senior sister in her sect was a master who was proficient in arrays. This Jade Sea Waves array was given to her by that senior sister because Shun Mingyao had the green spirit sword, a powerful magic tool. The main function of this array was to trap the enemy. According to her description, this array could trap 2 cultivators who had completed the chi refining stage, unless the trapped person was also proficient in arrays. Otherwise, even if they had the best quality magic tool, they wouldn't be able to break out of the array in a short time. The previous battles had all happened in the blink of an eye, so there was no time for her to arrange an array. Since there was a high possibility that Pan Shu would appear here, Chun Ming Yao decided to arrange this array. Moreover, the array flags of the array had already been refined by her, so she could directly activate it from a distance. Therefore, after Lu Kuan finished his cultivation, Shin Mingyao asked him for some flesh and skulls of the green demonic wolves. When most of the red fire hornets returned, they would scatter the flesh and skulls in the river where the formation could not cover, attracting the spirit-swallowing fishes to eat them. In this way, only the ambush formation could be passed through the entire river. If they walked deeper into the grassland, there would be no spirit-swallowing fish in the river. However, the deeper they went into the grassland, the higher the possibility of encountering demonic beasts. If they walked in the river in the forest, after crossing the river, the speed of the earth escape technique would be greatly reduced. Lu Kuan and Shun Mingyao calculated that Pan Shu could only go ashore in the area covered by the array. Not long after the red fire hornets returned, Pan Shu appeared by the river. At this time, Lu Kuan and Shun Mingyao were hiding in the isolation array in the forest. At this distance, Shun Mingyao could barely activate the Jade Sea Waves array, and it was also outside the range of Pan Shu's divine sense. Finally, under the nervous gaze of Lu Kuan and Shun Mingyao, Pan Shu hesitated for a long time. As expected, he still crossed the river here. Looking at the panicked Pan Shu in the array, Lu Kuan and Shun Mingyao looked at each other and smiled. Then they walked towards the array. Pan Shu, who was in the magic array, realized that no one had attacked him for a long time. Just when he was puzzled, a loud voice came from outside the magic array. "Fellow Cultivator Pan, your escaping technique is really brilliant. You can actually steal the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly from more than 100,000 Crimson Fire Demon Bees and remain unharmed." Pan Shu heard this strange voice and couldn't see the person outside. He was wondering who this person was and how he knew that he stole the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly. However, his expression was very blank as he said, "Fellow Taoist, I don't even know what the Crimson Fire Demon Wasp and the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly are, let alone steal them." At this time, a familiar female voice came. "Fellow Taoist Pan, you don't have to quibble. We saw the crazy situation of the red fire hornets with our own eyes. There are only a few immortal cultivators in the valley. Other than fellow Taoist, no one else can do this." When Pan Shu heard this voice, he knew who the person outside was. His face was a little pale. Previously, he, Du Yuan Shan, and the Fu brothers ambushed these 2 people. In the end, it was the other way around. He was trapped by them. Chapter 87. The reason why Lu Kuan took the initiative to reveal their purpose was to let Pan Shu take the initiative to hand over the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly. If Pan Shu destroyed it, Lu Kuan and the others would cry, but have no tears. After Pan Shu heard Lu Kuan's words, he didn't immediately answer. Instead, he quickly took out 3 talismans, which turned into 3 huge fireballs and smashed towards the water blue ground. There was a huge explosion on the water blue light shield, but this light shield was abnormally strong and showed no signs of damage. The ineffective attack of these 3 high-grade offensive talismans made Pan Shu give up the idea of breaking the formation and escaping. His wretched little eyes kept moving as he began to consider the credibility of Lu Kuan's words. Not long after, Pan Shu said, "How do I know if you 2 fellow Taoists will kill me after getting the item? I treasure my life very much." Lu Kuan and Shun Mingyao knew that this slippery rogue cultivator was somewhat tempted. Therefore, Shun Mingyao said with a bewitching voice, "Fellow Taoist Pan, don't worry. How about this? You give us a portion of the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly, and we will remove the formation. Then, you can give us another portion. This way, even if we want to kill you, you can escape with your escape technique." After hearing such good conditions, Pan Shu didn't immediately agree. He said, "Aren't you afraid that I will use the Earth escape technique to escape after you remove the formation? You must have other means to restrain me. Just say it." When Shun Mingyao heard Pan Shu's words, she chuckled and said, "If fellow Taoist breaks his promise, then the news that the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly is in fellow Taoist's hands will soon spread throughout the entire Wei Kingdom. At that time, I'm afraid there will be core formation patriarchs coming to ask fellow Taoists for it. They won't be as nice as us." After Pan Shu heard this, he seemed to understand Shun Mengyao's intention. He thought for a moment and replied, "As expected of Shun Mengyao, you have a protection of the demon spirit sect, so you will be safe. I am just a rogue cultivator and can't protect such a treasure. Okay, I promise you." Upon hearing this, Shun Mengyao was overjoyed and said, "Well, please throw one out of the formation first. After I remove the formation, you can give me the other one." After a short while, a small bottle was thrown out of the magic circle. Shun Mengyao caught it. She opened it and glanced at it. Then, she nodded to Lu Kuan and confirmed that it was the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly. Then, Pan Shu's voice came out of the magic circle again. "I'll have to trouble you two fellow Taoists to stay away from me. Fairy Shun, your bewitching technique is well known among aura-refining and immortal cultivators. My divine sense is rather weak. If I were to look into Fairy Shun's eyes at such a close distance, I'm afraid it would be a bit dangerous." As for the fellow Taoist beside Fairy Shun, his explosive speed is even more astonishing. "If the two of you retreat 20 to 30 zhang, I'll deliver the second portion." Upon hearing this, Shun Mingyao looked at Lu Kuan. Seeing Lu Kuan nodding with confidence, she said, "Okay, we will step back. I hope you will keep your promise." After she finished speaking, she and Lu Kuan retreated about 200 feet. Then, Shun Mingyao made a hand seal and removed the magic circle. Pan Shu's whole body was covered with a dark yellow magic shield. It seemed to be activated by a top-grade talisman. His whole stooped figure shrank behind a giant shield. After the magic circle disappeared, Pan Shu's wretched eyes looked around cautiously. He found that Lu Kuan and Shun Mingyao were really far away. Moreover, his divine sense didn't find any other ambush. He couldn't help but laugh and said, "You two fellow Taoists are really trustworthy. This is the other one. Please take it." After Pan Shu finished speaking, he threw a small bottle into the river beside him. He put away the shield and magic circle. His whole body was wrapped in a yellow light, and he escaped into the ground. At the same time, Shun Mingyao and Lu Kuan also moved. Shun Mingyao quickly ran into the river, looking for the small bottle. Lu Kuan's feet flashed with a red light, and he instantly disappeared from his original place. He operated the two-dimensional explosive steps to the limit and arrived at the location of the magic circle. Then, he held a silver-white hammer-shaped magic tool with both hands. His eyes shot out a golden light, and he slightly scanned the surroundings. Then, he fixed his eyes on a direction and dashed. After running for about 500 feet, he made a new move. Both his hands and the hammer were burning with white and red flames. As he ran quickly, he used his thick arms to swing the hammer and hammered the ground under his feet. Every part of the ground that was hammered was pressed down by several inches, and the ground was compressed as hard as rock. Lu Kuan ran and hammered more than 10 times. The earth 10 steps away from him was like a smooth, rectangular stone. The ground in front of the stone flashed with a yellow light, and a figure appeared. It was Pan Shu, but he looked miserable at this time. His eyes were dim, the corners of his mouth were bleeding, and his shoulders and back were swollen. It was as if he had been beaten up. It turned out that Lu Kuan had already thought of a way to deal with Pan Shu. His golden eyes could see the position of the earth escape technique, and then he could hit it through the earth. At this time, the peerless staff was not suitable, so he took out the refining hammer. With his great strength, combined with the strength of the hammer, he could completely press down the surface of the earth. Pan Shu, who was below, would be injured by the force transmitted by the earth. After many attacks, Pan Shu could only cancel the earth escape technique and return to the ground. After this wretched rogue cultivator returned to the ground, he immediately covered himself with a top-grade protective shield and summoned the giant spirit shield in front of him. When he was using the earth escape technique, Pan Shu was unable to use other spells, which made him a live target for Lu Kuan. Now his whole body was aching. After finishing a series of protective measures, Pan Shu looked up at the terrifying male cultivator. He did not expect that there would be a chi condensation stage cultivator who could see through his earth escape technique. At this time, the male cultivator casually carried the hammer on his shoulder and looked at him silently with a smile on his face. He did not make any movements. When Pan Shu saw this, he felt somewhat guilty and turned his head away, not daring to make any movements. Before long, Shun Mingyao came over with a cold face and said in a cold voice, "Fellow Taoist Pan, is this empty bottle the other one that fellow Taoist was talking about?" Pan Shu looked a bit embarrassed and said, "That, I might have taken the wrong one. This bottle should be the right one." After saying that, he took out a small bottle and threw it at Shun Mingyao. When he threw it out, he also looked at Lu Kuan and found that this strange male cultivator was still staring at him and did not even look at the small bottle. Pan Shu completely gave up and now only wanted to get away safely. After Shun Mingyao checked it, she said to the wretched rogue cultivator with a murderous look, "It seems that fellow Taoist Pan's eyesight is not very good. You can't even recognize the bottle you put in." Pan Shu let out a few hollow laughs and asked timidly, "Fellow Taoist also got the second one. Can I go now?" As he spoke, his hands were tightly pressed on the storage bag. Lu Kuan looked at him indifferently and nodded, saying, "You can go. I believe that fellow Taoist will not spread the news about the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly everywhere." When Pan Shu heard this, he was also stunned. His divine sense had already locked on the many talismans and the big killer weapon in the storage bag. If these two people really attacked him, he could only fight to the death. Who knew that they would really let him go? When Shin Mingyao heard Lu Kuan's words, she was also somewhat puzzled. Looking at Pan Shu in a daze, she said in a stern voice, "Fellow Taoist, why don't you want to escape now?" At this time, Pan Shu seemed to wake up from a dream. His eyes turned a few times, and he cupped his fist to Lu Kuan and said, "Fellow Taoists, it seems that you two are really trustworthy people. I will not reveal the slightest bit of the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly. But in addition to us, Huang Fei of the Yang clan also knows about it. Fellow Taoists, I will take my leave now." After he finished speaking, he did not dare to use the earth escape technique, nor did he put away his shield and shield. He slowly walked away until he was far away. Then he escaped into the ground and left. Shin Mingyao looked at Pan Shu disappearing into the distance and said to Lu Kuan, "Hey, I see that you are not a soft-hearted person. Why did you let him live? In the case that his earth escape technique was restrained by you, he was no match for us at all." Lu Kuan naturally had his reasons. He explained, "First of all, our main purpose in dealing with Pan Shu was the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly. Now we have it, right?" "Yes." "Secondly, the ones who ambushed us in the passage were Du Yuan Shan and the Fu brothers. And the Fu brothers who severely injured me are already dead." Shin Mingyao frowned and said, "This Pan Shu is also an accomplice. And just now, he casually used 3 high-grade talismans. It seems that his status is not low." Lu Kuan sighed and looked at Shun Mingyao with a look of disgust, as if he was worried about her intelligence. Shin Mingyao saw Lu Kuan's expression and her face turned purple. She summoned her cyan spirit sword and coldly shouted, "What's with your expression? Are you going to tell me or not?" Lu Kuan saw that Shun Mingyao was so angry and his expression changed. He said very seriously, "Ahem, Fairy Shun. Actually, the most important point is, What is our main purpose in coming to this valley? Shen Mingyao was stunned for a moment when she heard this question. Then, she answered without hesitation. The most important purpose is, of course, to collect Zhang Tu's primordial spirit and get his foundation establishment pill. That's right. This Pan Shu and Du Yuanshan are cooperating. If Du Yuanshan knows that the Fu brothers are dead, he will definitely try his best to rope him in. But Pan Shu knows my strength, and like us, he also has the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly. With his cowardly personality, he will definitely not be honest with Du Yuanshan. It is very likely that he will abandon Du Yuanshan at the critical moment and escape alone. At that time, the panicked Du Yuanshan will naturally not be a big threat. But if we kill Pan Shu, and Du Yuanshan finds out that the Fu brothers are dead, he will definitely think that he can't complete the mission alone. Then, he will most likely secretly destroy Zhang Tu's primordial spirit, so that no one can complete the mission. Also, judging from Pan Shu's expression, it won't be easy for us to kill him. Lu Kuan looked at Shen Mingyao's thoughtful expression and asked, "Let me ask you, Fairy Shen, do you want to successfully collect Zhang Tu's primordial spirit and complete the mission, or do you want Pan Shu's storage pouch?" Shen Mingyao obviously knew what she needed the most. But looking at Lu Kuan's determined expression, she was a little angry. She pouted and coldly snorted, "I want both, can't I?" Finished speaking, she turned and walked towards the Jade Sea Waves array. Lu Kuan looked at this demoness throwing a tantrum again and could only smile bitterly. Chapter 88. In the depths of the spiritual demon valley, there were a few huge black mountain peaks. The peaks were densely covered with forests, and the sky above the forest was covered with the thickest yellow demonic aura. Even the trees in the forest were tainted by the demonic aura, faintly turning yellow. Moreover, the few mountain peaks were very quiet, as if there were no living creatures. One day, at the foot of the mountain in the westernmost part of the deep region, a man and a woman walked over, covered in dust. It was Lu Kuan and Shen Mingyao. Lu Kuan's clothes were a little tattered, and there were many bloodstains. His face was also covered in dust, and his eyes were faintly red. Shen Mingyao, who was beside him, was even more exhausted. Her hair was messy, and although she didn't seem to have suffered any injuries, the mana in her body was extremely sparse. It had been 4 days since they crossed the river. Without Xiao Jin's guidance, and without the deterrence of the fierce badger and the fire scarlet hornet, they encountered a large number of demonic beasts almost every day. On the afternoon of the first day, they encountered a herd of greenhorn black bulls. There were more than 100 mid-ranked demonic bulls, and close to 10 high-ranked demonic bulls. They crazily charged towards them on the grassland. The momentum of 100 bulls charging was too terrifying. In the end, they relied on Lu Kuan's body controlling flying technique to escape into the forest, and only then did they get rid of these demonic bulls. But who knew that early in the morning of the second day, they would encounter a herd of steelback boars in the forest. It was the kind of demonic boars with steel spikes on their backs that Lu Kuan encountered in the Luyang mountain range. There were almost 20 of these demonic boars. There were 6 high-ranked ones, and the rest were mid-ranked ones. Lu Kuan and Shen Mingyao used thunderous methods to kill 3 high-ranked demonic boars. After that, the other wild boars began to take turns to attack the steel spikes. Fortunately, Shen Mingyao's defensive artifact, the soul-controlling umbrella, was quite miraculous. It blocked the steel spikes, and they finally killed these demonic boars. In the next few days, the two of them also encountered various groups of demonic beasts, but they all passed through safely. The most dangerous situation happened a day ago. They encountered 7 or 8 high-ranked demonic beasts, petrifying lizards. Before encountering them, Lu Kuan and Shen Mingyao had already killed a lot of demonic beasts. Lu Kuan's fire attribute spiritual power in his body was completely used up, and Shen Mingyao's mana was also depleted. Shen Mingyao had no mana, so she couldn't withstand the attacks. Shen Mingyao, At the critical moment, Lu Kuan protected Shen Mengyao under his body. The petrifying technique only covered Lu Kuan and the ground, wrapping them into a rock embedded in the ground. As long as they were in the rock for a long time, they would be petrified. Then, the petrifying lizards would eat the petrified corpses as food. Lu Kuan couldn't hold on for too long in the rock, let alone Shen Mengyao, whose body was even more fragile. Therefore, he had no choice but to absorb the demonic aura into his body again. He used the demonic fire to break the rock, and without using any demonic power, he used his twin rods to kill all the petrifying lizards. This time, using the demonic aura, Lu Kuan kept his consciousness clear. He tried to use the spiritual root concealment divine sense. The result was very effective. Although the bloodthirsty aura still appeared in the end, it didn't make Lu Kuan lose his mind. After killing these petrifying lizards, they came to the western edge of the deep region. There was already the aura of the most powerful demonic beasts here, so it was relatively safe. Lu Kuan searched for a while and found a stone cave. At this moment, there was still some demonic aura left in his body. He had some power to protect himself, so he let Shen Mengyao recover first. He said, "Fairy Shun, it should be safer here. You should recover your mana first." Shen Mengyao's face was pale, and her eyes were lifeless. After hearing Lu Kuan's words, she slowly walked into the stone cave. At this moment, there was still some mana left in her body. It was reserved for activating the isolation array. After setting up the array, Shen Mengyao took out a blue spirit stone and absorbed the spiritual energy within it hungrily. She stayed in the stone cave for an entire day and night. Finally, she walked out with a rosy complexion. In the previous few battles, she didn't receive any major injuries under Lu Kuan's protection. However, various small injuries had been accumulating in her body. Taking advantage of the fact that this place was relatively safe, she took a few healing elixirs and recuperated. Her cultivation also improved, reaching the peak of the 12th layer. Lu Kuan saw that Shen Mengyao had finally recovered to her best condition. He felt relieved and said, "Fairy, you've finally recovered. I still have to ask for a fire attribute spirit stone. I don't have any mana left. I can't even open my storage bag." Shen Mengyao nodded. Looking at the exhausted Lu Kuan, she felt a little distressed. She took out a spirit stone and a bottle of elixirs and said softly, "Lu Kuan, take this bottle of healing elixirs. I'm sure your injuries weren't light." Lu Kuan used the body refining technique to fight. His injuries were also on his physical body. He didn't need the healing elixirs of ordinary cultivators. However, looking at Shen Mengyao's concerned expression, he still accepted the elixirs. He turned around and walked into the stone cave. Shen Mengyao stared blankly at Lu Kuan's figure outside the cave. In these 3 days, it could be said that she and Lu Kuan had entrusted their lives to each other. Especially during the last encounter with the petrifying lizard, Lu Kuan completely used his life to save her. In so many battles, Shen Mengyao discovered that Lu Kuan had never released any other spells besides the fireball technique. It was a complete waste of the talent of his mutated spiritual roots. It should be known that some spells were very effective against a group of demonic beasts. She also discovered that Lu Kuan's strength had decreased compared to a few days ago. Shen Mengyao vaguely asked about it. Lu Kuan didn't hide anything and told her about his hidden spiritual roots. When Shen Mengyao heard that Lu Kuan's hidden spiritual roots only appeared once every 5 days, she was shocked. She couldn't imagine how Lu Kuan cultivated to the late stage of qi refining. She kept muttering that he was a monster. It should be known that his cultivation time was only 1/6 of a normal cultivator's. After Shen Mengyao recovered from her shock, she was somewhat depressed these days. She was worried that Lu Kuan would be able to break through to the foundation establishment stage. Although Lu Kuan had reached the late stage of qi refining, it was extremely difficult for him to build his foundation. A normal, mutated spiritual root cultivator would need to go into seclusion for a month to build his foundation. However, With the characteristics of Lu Kuan's hidden spiritual roots, he would need to go into seclusion for half a year. Moreover, his cultivation during this half year was intermittent. There was no way for him to break through the bottleneck in one go. Moreover, a normal cultivator would need a month to completely absorb the medicinal efficacy of a foundation establishment pill. Lu Kuan could only absorb 1/6 of it. The remaining medicinal efficacy would cause harm to the body if it stayed in the body for too long. However, Lu Kuan's body seemed to be very strong. These injuries to normal cultivators shouldn't be able to harm him. According to the calculation of medicinal efficacy, Lu Kuan would need at least 6 foundation establishment pills. Only then would he be able to absorb the same amount of medicinal efficacy as a normal cultivator. Since he was absorbing the medicinal efficacy intermittently, he couldn't break through the bottleneck in one go. In that case, he would have to wait for a long time for the foundation establishment pill. After thinking about this, Shen Mingyao secretly made a decision in her heart. At the other end of the deep region, which was the northernmost mountain peak, there was a handsome young man of about 25 years old sitting cross-legged behind a big rock with his eyes closed. No one knew how long he had been sitting there. Suddenly, not far from him, a yellow light flashed, and a wretched figure appeared. These two people were Du Yuanshan and Pan Shu. Du Yuanshan opened his eyes after Pan Shu appeared and said, "Did you run into trouble on the way? Otherwise, with your earth escape technique, you should have arrived 2 days ago." Pan Shu revealed a helpless expression and said, "On the way, we met a few people from the Yang clan. We were almost surrounded by them." When Du Yuanshan heard that there were a few people from the Yang clan, he looked nervous and asked, "And then, they probably didn't know that our destination was in the deep region." Pan Shu continued, "Fortunately, I was cautious and didn't get killed by them. I escaped, but then, what happened next?" Pan Shu revealed a look of fear and muttered. Then a top-level ferocious badger appeared. I took advantage of the time when they were fighting with the ferocious badger and quickly escaped. Just in case, I took a big detour, so I arrived so late. When Du Yuanshan heard the words, top-level ferocious badger, he was shocked, but then he revealed a look of joy and said, "Encountering such a ferocious badger, the Yang clan's people are doomed. It seems that our only competitors now are Shen Mingyao and the others." Pan Shu said, "They are nothing to be afraid of. All right, where are the Fu brothers?" At this time, Pan Shu realized that the Fu brothers were not there, so he changed the topic. When Du Yuanshan heard Pan Shu mention the Fu brothers, he couldn't help but feel a little irritated and said, "Let's wait for them for 2 more days. If they don't come, it means that they are doomed." At the foot of the mountain and in the western part of the deep area, Lu Kuan and Shen Mingyao were standing outside the cave, looking into the cave with a face full of surprise. There was a gray figure sitting cross-legged in the cave, cultivating. Shen Mingyao said nervously, "Xiao Jin seems to have fallen asleep after eating the black-horned snake's gallbladder. Now that he has absorbed so much demonic aura, will he be in danger?" Lu Kuan looked at Xiao Jin circulating the Vajra skill and felt the strong demonic aura in the cave. He looked worried and said, "Xiao Jin's talent is different from others. Absorbing so much demonic aura won't be a big problem. I'm just afraid that it will attract other demonic beasts." Shen Mingyao felt that the demonic aura was equivalent to that of an upper-level demonic aura and said, "I've set up an array at the entrance of the cave, just in case." However, Xiao Jin's talent is too amazing. He hasn't reached the peak of the intermediate stage before, and now he's about to break through. Lu Kuan's understanding of Xiao Jin's Vajra skill can be said to have surpassed Xiao Jin's own understanding. In fact, with so much demonic aura, most of it is used to temper the body. Only a small part of it will be converted into demonic spiritual force. He shook his head and said, "No, Xiao Jin will at most reach the peak of the intermediate stage." Just as Lu Kuan finished speaking, the demonic aura began to decrease. Shen Mingyao also felt the change and didn't continue to set up the array. After the time it takes to make a cup of tea, the demonic aura in the cave dissipated. A gray figure quickly rushed out and jumped onto Lu Kuan's body, grinning with a happy expression. Lu Kuan carefully sensed with his divine sense and found that Xiao Jin's strength had greatly improved. He had reached the 6th stage of the Vajra skill, Viscera Forging. However, the demonic spiritual force in his body was still a bit away from the peak of the intermediate stage. Chapter 89. Seeing that Xiao Jin had completely awakened, Lu Kuan revealed a happy expression and said to Shinmeng Yao, Fairy Shun, now that Xiao Jin has awakened, we can avoid most of the top-tier demon beasts. The rest of the journey will be much safer, but I'm very curious as to how Zhang Tu managed to hide in the depths. Shinmeng Yao's face also revealed a puzzled expression. She nodded and said, I've also been thinking about this problem. Unless he has the top-tier aura concealing talisman, he can't avoid the spiritual perception of top-tier demon beasts. The aura concealing talisman has a time limit, but he has already been here for a long time. Lu Kuan thought that this person had already stayed in the Demon Valley for more than 3 months and also felt that it was very strange. He said, could it be that he has some kind of treasure that can conceal his aura? Even if he really has this kind of treasure that can hide from top-tier demon beasts for a long time, he also has enough fasting pills. Could it be that he's going to stay in the Spirit Demon Valley forever? Shinmeng Yao took out the tracking array plate and said after some thought, I understand. There are 2 main reasons why he has stayed here for so long. One is to avoid our pursuit, and the other is to wait for our tracking array to lose its effect. Lu Kuan was puzzled and asked, does the tracking array have a time limit? Yes, this soul aura can't always exist. After about a year, the soul aura on the tracking array will disappear, and then we won't be able to track him. The soul aura of the Qi refining stage is relatively weak, so the remaining aura of the origin spirit lamp is not enough to continue making the tracking array. Lu Kuan suddenly understood and said, so this Zhang Tu wants to hide here for a year and a half, and then go out to find a place to hide. With the 2 foundation establishment pills in his hands, the chances of him reaching the foundation establishment stage are also quite high. If he can successfully reach the foundation establishment stage without the tracking array plate, there will be almost no danger. Shinmeng Yao said with some emotion, although this Zhang Tu's aptitude and cultivation are ordinary, his ability to endure is really amazing. What a pity. After she finished speaking, she glanced at Xiao Jin. Ever since Xiao Jin sensed the few people from the Yang clan, she finally knew how terrifying Xiao Jin's ability was. Lu Kuan coughed lightly and said, let's determine his exact location first. Shinmeng Yao nodded and injected her magic power into the tracking array disc. Now that the tracking array disc was very close to Zhang Tu, she could accurately determine his location. Looking at the location of the green dot on the tracking formation plate, Shinmeng Yao and Lu Kuan communicated with each other and finally determined that Zhang Tu's position was at the center of the deep area. In order to reach the center of the mountain range, they had to climb over the mountains in front of them. Lu Kuan looked at the deep mountains in the distance, and his eyes flashed with a fierce light. He said to Shinmeng Yao, Xiao Jin has already woken up. We have to hurry. If Xiao Jin can sense Du Yuan Shan, then we have to deal with him first. Shinmeng Yao looked at Lu Kuan's eyes and knew that he was still holding a grudge over the previous ambush. On the other side of the deep area, Du Yuan Shan was standing outside a forest and looking at the tracking artifact in his hand. Although he was also curious as to how Zhang Tu passed through the territories of so many top-tier demonic beasts, this was not important to his mission. Now he was thinking about how to safely extract Zhang Tu's primordial spirit. He heard his muttering, there's almost no information about the deep area of the Spirit Demon Valley in the outside world. I have no way to determine if there will be demonic beasts in the place where Zhang Tu is. If there's a demonic beast, is this demonic beast strong or not? If it is comparable to a fierce badger, even if the Fu brothers are here, it is almost impossible to complete the mission. If it is just an ordinary top-tier demonic beast, even if I can't defeat it, I have some confidence that I can lure it out. Du Yuanshan was thinking when Pan Shu's figure slowly appeared on the ground in front of him. He frowned and said to Du Yuanshan, "There's a top-tier gray-backed demonic bear in this forest. Its spiritual sense is abnormally strong. It can actually sense me, who is hundreds of feet away underground. If we directly enter its territory, we will definitely be discovered by it. Therefore, we have to go around this forest." Du Yuanshan nodded and said, "I didn't expect it to be a gray-backed demonic bear. This kind of top-tier demonic beast has thick skin. Our attack power is insufficient and can't break through its defense. However, its strength is incomparable. If we are hit by it, we will be seriously injured or even die." Then he said hatefully, "I didn't expect the Fu brothers to be so useless. They can't even pass through the central region." Du Yuanshan's original plan was to have Pan Shu scout the way and set up a formation to ambush Shen Mengyao and the others. This way, they could hunt down some top-tier demonic beasts with weaker defense. However, now that the Fu brothers' whereabouts were unknown, they could only delay and take a detour. One day later, Lu Kuan and Shen Mengyao, under the lead of Xiao Jin, did not stop at all. They avoided all the top-tier demonic beasts along the way. At this time, they arrived at Zhang Tu's location without any injuries. Lu Kuan looked at the somewhat gloomy forest in front of him and said to Shen Mengyao, "How is it? Is Zhang Tu in this forest?" Shen Mengyao was looking at the tracking magical device. When she heard Lu Kuan's question, she said with certainty, "Yes, he is indeed in this forest. The distance is not very far, about 2 miles. Lu Kuan asked Xiao Jin again, "Do you sense the sound of human cultivators within your range?" Xiao Jin's ears twitched a few times, and she shook her head. "I didn't expect Du Yuanshan to be so much slower than us. Could it be that there was an accident? Then we can complete the mission first," Shen Mengyao said in surprise after seeing Xiao Jin's actions. Lu Kuan thought for a moment and said, "There is a possibility that there was an accident. Think about it. In our battle a few days ago, if it was Du Yuanshan, he would have died several times." Shen Mengyao thought of the various fierce battles a few days ago, and her pretty face turned pale. She took a deep breath and said, "Since Xiao Jin is sure that there are no human cultivators, let's deal with Zhang Tu first. With our strength, we can easily obtain his primordial spirit. According to the information in the sect, he has a very ordinary top-grade magical device at most." Lu Kuan and Shen Mengyao had the same idea. They said to Xiao Jin, "Xiao Jin, are there really no demonic beasts in this forest?" It turned out that before, they had already asked Xiao Jin to investigate. Xiao Jin said that there were almost no animals in the forest. Seeing Xiao Jin nod with certainty, Lu Kuan was still a little uneasy, because the forest here actually made him feel a trace of danger. He frowned and said to Shen Mengyao, "We should still be careful. Xiao Jin's magical ability sometimes may not be able to sense all the demonic beasts. Just like the fierce badger from before, it only sensed it when it was close." Shen Mengyao nodded. She still believed in Lu Kuan's feelings more. She took out the Imperial Spirit umbrella magical device and clasped the defensive talisman in her hand. Lu Kuan saw that Shen Mengyao was ready. He held the unparalleled rod with both hands and took the lead to walk into the forest. On this day, his spiritual root appeared, and his mana was abnormally abundant. That was why he dared to enter this somewhat dangerous forest. The strangest thing about this forest was that there seemed to be no living creatures. Although the places they had passed through before were all the territories of top-tier demonic beasts, there were still some small beasts and insects. The two of them slowly walked forward. Only the creaking sound of the withered branches could be heard, which was somewhat terrifying. Lu Kuan activated the golden magical ability with all his strength. His eyes emitted a golden light as he looked into the depths of the forest. Suddenly, he seemed to have discovered something. He stopped in his tracks. With a serious expression, he pointed to the front towards Shen Mengyao. Shen Mengyao saw Lu Kuan's serious expression and did not dare to make sound. She looked forward but did not discover anything. She looked at Lu Kuan with a puzzled expression. Lu Kuan could only use his 2 hands to gesture in front of him. Shen Mingyao then discovered that what Lu Kuan was pointing at was actually a sparkling and translucent spider silk. She actually could not sense it with her divine sense. This immediately made her hair stand on end. She was definitely not stupid enough to think that this was an ordinary spider silk. It was definitely woven by a terrifying top-tier demonic beast. Following this, she and Lu Kuan followed this spider silk and slowly moved into the depths of the forest. Gradually, there were more and more spider silk. If it was not for Lu Kuan's amazing eyesight, they would not have discovered it. After carefully passing through many dense spider silk, they found a crypt. It should be the lair of this top-tier spider. At this point, Shen Mingyao took out the tracking array disc and nodded to Lu Kuan. It turned out that Zhang Tu was in this spider's lair. After finding Zhang Tu, the two of them were not in a hurry. They looked at each other and slowly retreated. After retreating beyond all the spider silk, Lu Kuan said in a low voice, "No wonder Xiao Jin said that there are no demonic beasts. This spider does not make any sound. It also does not move when there is no prey." Shen Mingyao replied in a low voice, "This spider only uses its spider silk to sense the situation in its territory. This means that its spiritual sense is average. Moreover, Zhang Tu stayed in its lair for so long. He probably can't see anything. We can lure it out and see what kind of demonic beast it is." After Lu Kuan heard this, he took out the corpse of a petrifying lizard from his storage bag. If it was not for the fact that Shen Mingyao still had some transcendence energy in her body, they probably would not have been able to collect these valuable demonic beast materials. At this time, they used the petrifying lizard because even though these lizards were already dead, their outer skin was still tough. It was close to a normal defensive artifact and could be used to test the demonic beast's attack power. Lu Kuan's golden eyes focused on the denser spider silk in the distance. He threw the petrifying lizard out with force. This heavy corpse did not break the spider silk there. Instead, it stuck tightly to the spider silk. Suddenly, a black figure rushed towards the corpse and pressed down on the petrifying lizard. Lu Kuan and the rest took a closer look. It was indeed a top-tier demonic beast spider. It was about 2 feet tall, and its torso was 3 feet long. It had 4 pairs of black limbs, and its entire body was covered in black fur. In the middle of its head was a pair of huge pincers. Outside the pincers were a pair of slightly longer limbs. Chapter 90. Seeing the spider's terrifying pincers, Xiao Jin, who was on Lu Kuan's shoulder, measured its small body and could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. They all hid in the distance and waited for the spider to return. Shen Mingyao revealed a depressed expression and whispered, "Lu Kuan, that's a black jade poisonous spider." "Black jade poisonous spider? Let's leave this place first," Lu Kuan said as he pulled Shen Mingyao out of the spiderweb-filled forest. After walking outside, Lu Kuan asked Xiao Jin to pay attention to the nearby movements. As soon as the black jade poisonous spider crawled, it would be discovered by Xiao Jin. Then he asked Shen Mingyao, "What kind of demonic beast is the black jade poisonous spider? Judging from your expression, is this demonic beast on the same level as the ferocious badger?" Shen Mingyao shook her head and said, "In terms of combat power, the 2 black jade poisonous spiders are not a match for the ferocious badger. However, in terms of the value of its body, it is not inferior to the ferocious badger. The poison glands in its body and the silk-spitting glands are excellent materials that can only be found by chance. The poison in the poison glands is one of the materials to refine a kind of cultivation elixir. There are 2 kinds of silk slurry in the glands. One is the main material to refine a top-grade inner armor, and the other is a necessary material to refine a top-grade trapping magic weapon. A Foundation establishment, Martial Uncle in the Miraculous Gate, issued a mission related to this, so I know more about this demonic beast." Lu Kuan nodded and said, "I see. Then does this demonic beast have any special magical powers?" Shen Mingyao recalled the information she had checked before and said, Its poison is very strong, and it has a corrosive power. The prey that is injected with its poison will immediately fall into a coma. After a period of time, the prey will soften into a pool of liquid. At that time, the black jade poisonous spider only needs to suck gently to eat the prey. Lu Kuan thought of the previous scene and said, it used its poisonous fangs to pierce the petrifying lizard. It could bite through this kind of defense so easily. Your spiritual umbrella might not be able to withstand it. Shun Mingyao nodded and said, it shouldn't be able to withstand it. Unfortunately, a top-grade defensive magic weapon is too rare. Its speed is so fast that only you can avoid its attack in time. Shun Mingyao thought of the spider silk at the entrance of the crypt and said with a worried expression, you have to fight with the black jade poisonous spider outside the forest to be safe. Otherwise, it will be troublesome if you get entangled by the spider silk. Lu Kuan frowned and asked, what's so special about the black jade poisonous spider's silk? Shun Mingyao explained, its spider silk is divided into two types. One is the type that cannot be sensed by divine sense. This type of spider silk has a strong concealment ability, but its toughness and stickiness are also very terrifying. Moreover, ordinary fireballs are unable to burn it. People with spider silk on their body will be sensed by it. If you fight with it in the forest, you will definitely be touched by the spider silk. At that time, not only will your speed decrease, you will also be locked onto by it. The other type of spider silk is the white spider silk that is used to wrap its prey. This type of spider silk has the effect of isolating spiritual energy and divine sense. It also has some poison that can numb transcendence energy. Fortunately, this type of spider silk is not so tough and will break when attacked by a high-grade magic weapon. Lu Kuan nodded thoughtfully and began to observe the environment outside the forest, thinking about how to lure the black jade poisonous spider out. At this moment, Xiao Jin's ears twitched and it squeaked a few times to Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan's eyes flashed, and he said to Shun Mingyao, there are two immortal cultivators 4 to 5 miles away walking towards here. They should be Du Yuanshan and Pan Shu. Shun Mingyao asked, then should we ambush them on the way? Lu Kuan shook his head and said no, let them come over. After Du Yuanshan and Pan Shu meet, they will definitely let Pan Shu scout the way first. We will hide far away and let them reach here. After speaking, Lu Kuan's eyes scanned the surroundings and found a bare hill opposite the forest. He pulled Shun Mingyao over and hid behind the hill. This place allowed his golden eyes to barely see the fighting scene in the forest. It was also far away from the forest, so his divine sense could not detect it. Lu Kuan and the others only needed to use the invisibility technique on themselves. At this time, Shun Mingyao realized that Lu Kuan was holding her slender hand. She blushed and quickly pulled her hand away. She glanced at Lu Kuan and whispered, after they come over, if they find the black jade poisonous spider, they will definitely not make a move. Lu Kuan did not seem to notice his actions. He looked at the forest in the distance and said, Du Yuanshan knows Zhang Tu's location and will let Pan Shu enter this forest to explore. With Pan Shu's personality, it is very likely that he will not come to the surface and will only use his divine sense to scan the forest. If Pan Shu's divine sense does not find the spider silk, will he directly enter the cave to deal with Zhang Tu? Hearing this, Lu Kuan chuckled lightly and said he won't. With Zhang Tu's mysterious aura concealing method, his divine sense might not be able to sweep over. Even if it swept over, Pan Shu wouldn't dare to go in alone. We will know when they come over. In any case, we are in the dark. After about 2 hours, 2 figures appeared outside the forest. With Lu Kuan's eyesight, he could tell that these 2 people were Du Yuanshan and Pan Shu. After the 2 of them spoke a few words, Pan Shu was somewhat hesitant. After a while, he used the earth escape technique to sneak in. Pan Shu walked slowly under the forest. He carefully used his divine sense to sense the empty forest. He felt very strange. One must know that along the way, the territories of the top-ranked demon beasts were one after another. There was no reason for such a large forest not to be occupied by demon beasts. Not long after, his divine sense sensed an underground cave, but what was strange was that there was nothing in the cave. Pan Shu, who was naturally vigilant, did not enter as Lu Kuan had guessed. Instead, he returned the way he came, outside the forest. Du Yuanshan saw Pan Shu return and hurriedly asked, "How was it? Were there any demon beasts inside?" Pan Shu had a strange expression and said, "There were no demon beasts, but there was an empty cave in the center of the forest." After hearing this, Du Yuanshan's expression was somewhat uncertain. He said, "That's strange. The tracking disc clearly showed that he was here. I know. Zhang Tu was able to sneak in here safely. He must have some kind of treasure protecting him. Your divine sense didn't find him. It's very likely because of this treasure." Pan Shu's eyes revealed a greedy expression when he heard that there was a treasure that could block divine sense. For people like him, any magic tool that could block divine sense was a treasure. Du Yuanshan saw Pan Shu's expression and coldly snorted in his heart. He said, "Since there are no demon beasts inside, we will go in and get rid of Zhang Tu." After hearing this, Pan Shu hesitated because this strange forest made him feel a bit uneasy. In fact, Du Yuanshan did not want to rush in rashly, but he was afraid that if he delayed for too long, Shun Mingyao and the others might rush over. The Fu brothers were not here now. Thinking about the terrifying speed of that male cultivator, Du Yuanshan did not have any confidence in defeating them. He said to Pan Shu, "I know you are greedy for life and afraid of death, but the faster we complete the mission, the safer we will be. How about this? After completing the mission, in addition to the spirit stones I promised you, Zhang Tu's divine sense, concealing treasure, will also belong to you." Pan Shu's wretched eyes lit up as he heard these words. He nodded and summoned his giant spirit shield. He also took out a few paper charms in his hand. Du Yuanshan also took out a small round shield-shaped defensive magic tool. Then, the two of them slowly walked into the forest. After watching the two enter the forest, Lu Kuan whispered to Shen Mingyao, "If they accidentally touch the spider silk, they will be attacked by the black jade poisonous spiders. Caught off guard, Pan Shu is likely to escape alone, and Du Yuanshan will either be killed by the spider's sneak attack or be injured and chased out of the forest. At that time, you will deal with the injured Du Yuanshan, and I will deal with the black jade poisonous spiders. The power of the matchless staff could even injure the ferocious badger. This spider's defense is definitely not as good as the ferocious badger's." Shen Mingyao believed in Lu Kuan's judgment and silently nodded in agreement. Du Yuanshan and Pan Shu slowly moved forward, vigilantly watching the surroundings. Surprisingly, they didn't even touch the outermost spider webs. Gradually, the two of them approached the crypt. Seeing the dense spider webs in front of the crypt from afar, they immediately broke out in cold sweat and didn't dare to move forward. They looked at each other, nodded, and slowly retreated. At this time, Pan Shu secretly mobilized the spiritual energy in his body, ready to use the earth escape technique at any time. Du Yuanshan also pressed one hand on his storage bag. After retreating a few steps, their legs came into contact with a strand of spider silk. This strand of spider silk stuck tightly to their clothes and was extremely tough, preventing them from retreating. This made them immediately feel that something was wrong. At this moment, a huge black spider quickly rushed out of the cave. Black jade poisonous spider. Du Yuanshan's face was full of shock. He and Shen Mingyao were from the same sect, and he had also seen the mission issued by the Foundation Establishment Stage Martial Uncle. At a glance, he recognized that this ferocious demonic beast was a top-grade black jade poisonous spider. Without saying anything, Du Yuanshan immediately took out his crescent moon blade and cut off the spider's silk. He dashed out of the forest and, at the same time, activated a defensive talisman. A blue magic shield covered his body. Pan Shu had also heard of this black jade poisonous spider, but he didn't know the specific characteristics of this demonic beast. He subconsciously threw a fireball at the spider's silk, but it didn't immediately burn it. From the corner of his eye, he saw that Du Yuanshan was using a top-grade magic tool. Only then did he realize, and immediately threw an upper-grade cutting talisman at the spider silk. But in this delay of a few breaths, the black jade poisonous spider had already rushed in front of Pan Shu, and several pairs of legs chopped at him like black sickles. The giant spirit shield quickly blocked in front of Pan Shu, blocking this attack. At the same time, the metal attribute cutting talisman also cut the spider silk. Then, with a yellow flash, he escaped into the ground, intending to escape out of the forest. But since this black jade poisonous spider's nest was underground, it also knew how to burrow. It quickly burrowed into the ground and chased after Pan Shu. Then, a purple light appeared from the ground, and the black jade poisonous spider was blasted out with a loud bang. Its whole body was black, and its mouth let out an ear-piercing scream. With this delay, Pan Shu had already overtaken Du Yuanshan and escaped into the distance. At this time, the furious black jade poisonous spider naturally targeted Du Yuanshan. Its 8 black sickle-like legs slid quickly, and it rushed towards Du Yuanshan at a speed comparable to flying on a magic tool. Chapter 91. Du Yuanshan watched as the terrifying black jade poisonous spider rapidly approached. He took out a few talismans and threw them behind him. The talismans turned into a few ice arrows and hit the black jade poisonous spider. Then, they turned into a huge block of ice and froze the black jade poisonous spider. At the same time, he muttered something. The vine technique that easily restrained Lu Kuan appeared under the spider's feet and wrapped the huge block of ice tightly. Du Yuanshan then quickly ran out and took off his coat that was stuck with spider silk. In his panic, he forgot the positioning function of the spider silk. Now that there was no spider silk on him, his position would not be locked. As for the combination of the ice talisman and the vine technique, it was impossible to trap a top-tier demonic beast like the black jade poisonous spider for too long. Du Yuanshan ran extremely fast and soon reached the outside of the forest. Thinking that he was about to escape danger, he relaxed and the light of the crescent moon blade and the small shield dimmed. At this moment, a green sword light attacked him from afar. It seemed to have predicted his relaxed state. This sharp sword light made him feel a strong sense of danger. It was a top-grade magic weapon. Du Yuanshan did not have time to react. Fortunately, the small round shield had been circling around him and blocked the attack. However, in the face of a top-grade magic weapon, this small high-grade defensive shield could not completely block it in a hurry. The huge power still passed through the small shield. Because of the connection between their minds, Du Yuanshan spat out a mouthful of blood but did not lose his life. Du Yuanshan knew that this was a critical moment. He took out an upper-grade defensive talisman and slapped it on himself. A yellow light shrouded him. Although the small shield was damaged, it still circled around him. The crescent moon blade also shone brightly and floated in front of Du Yuanshan. Just now, he was relaxed and did not have time to use the crescent moon blade. After a series of defensive actions, Du Yuanshan looked forward and saw a woman with an enchanting figure and a cold expression. It was Shun Mengyao. Du Yuanshan's heart was filled with anxiety. In a one-on-one fight, he was slightly inferior to Chen Mengyao. At this moment, Chun Mengyao had taken the initiative. Thinking of the man with Chun Mengyao, his face turned even paler. Du Yuanshan shouted at Shun Mengyao, "Shun Mengyao, even if we want to fight, we can't do it here. There are black jade poisonous spiders in the forest. You must know their characteristics. If they sense the vibrations caused by our fight, you and I will be in danger of being ambushed at any time." After Shun Mengyao heard this from afar, she sneered. She did not say a word. The green spirit sword in front of her shone brightly and continued to attack Du Yuanshan. Du Yuanshan could only control the crescent moon saber to block this attack. Their transcendence energy levels were similar. In terms of transcendence energy, Du Yuanshan was only slightly inferior. In a short period of time, there were no signs of him being defeated. As the battle progressed, Du Yuanshan consciously began to distance himself from the forest. Shen Mingyao also had the same idea. Not long after, the sounds of their battle became more and more distant from the forest. At this moment, not far from the entrance of the forest, Lu Kuan and the black jade spider were facing off. Lu Kuan held 2 long staffs in each hand. One of them was still burning with a white and red flame. His face was flushed, and he was panting like a cow. His expression was very excited. Lu Kuan was facing the black jade poisonous spider. Apart from its body being slightly charred, the 2 legs on the left side of the spider were broken and green blood flowed out. It turned out that not long ago, Lu Kuan and Shen Mingyao saw them enter the forest. To be safe, they used the invisibility spell and slowly approached the forest. Then, Lu Kuan saw from afar that the spider had sneaked into the ground to chase after Pan Shu. Pan Shu actually used some kind of powerful attack to injure this demonic beast and quickly escaped. When he saw this result, Lu Kuan let Shen Mingyao ambush Du Yuanshan here while he rushed in from another side. After approaching, he saw Du Yuanshan use 2 powerful control spells to control the black jade poisonous spider and then escape from the forest. Seeing this, Lu Kuan was overjoyed. He needed some time to combine his staffs. If no one else gave him the opportunity to attack, it would be very difficult to hit the target. Now, the black jade poisonous spider was clearly a live target. Lu Kuan immediately took out his 2 staffs and dashed towards the black jade poisonous spider. Du Yuanshan was in a hurry and didn't have time to look behind him. Just as the black jade poisonous spider was about to break free, Lu Kuan's twin staves merged into one and smashed towards it with blazing flames. This black jade poisonous spider was indeed a top-tier demon beast. In such a dangerous moment, it had moved its head away and only lost 2 of its sickle-shaped limbs. Lu Kuan took a big step back after his attack and separated the 2 staffs. This way, his attack speed would be faster and it would be easier to block the attack. However, he wasn't sure about the spider's speed, so he didn't attack for the time being. Lu Kuan looked at the motionless spider and was rather puzzled. What's this? Lu Kuan's sharp eyes saw many tiny hairs floating from the black jade poisonous spider's body in all directions. Some of them were about to touch his body. Seeing this, Lu Kuan naturally wouldn't let these hairs touch his body. A layer of red light appeared on his body, and then a white and red flame burned outside his body. He looked like a giant, and all the hair on his body sizzled when it came into contact with the flame and was burned to ashes. Seeing that the hairs were restrained by the primordial fire, Lu Kuan revealed a bloodthirsty smile. All the muscles in his body bulged as he gripped the peerless staff tightly with both hands. He didn't wait for an opportunity and instantly disappeared from his original spot. He appeared on the right side of the black jade poisonous spider and struck out with his 2 staffs. What Lu Kuan didn't know was that the black jade poisonous spider's hairs, other than being poisonous, were also used to sense the enemy's position. After the black jade poisonous spider sensed that its poisonous hairs were burned to ashes, it knew Lu Kuan's figure like the back of its hand. The moment Lu Kuan appeared on its right, the spider quickly turned around. The 2 short limbs beside its poisonous fangs were as flexible as whips as they quickly waved. Unexpectedly, these soft and short limbs were actually so sturdy that they blocked Lu Kuan's peerless staff. At the same time, the black jade poisonous spider's pincers and poisonous fangs shot out a stream of green liquid. However, when it encountered the primordial fire on Lu Kuan's body, it was burned into gas. Lu Kuan didn't expect the spider to react so quickly and accurately determine his position after he used the exploding essence steps. Therefore, he couldn't dodge the poisonous liquid in a hurry. Although the poisonous liquid was burned by the primordial fire, the trace of gas was accidentally sucked into Lu Kuan's body. Then, he saw Lu Kuan's eyes turn white and his expression dim as if he had fainted. The primordial fire on his body was also extinguished. Immediately, balls of spider silk appeared from the black jade poisonous spider's abdomen and shot towards Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan seemed to still be in a daze and couldn't dodge in time. He was hit by the silk, and in a few breaths of time, he was wrapped into a 6-foot-tall, giant white cocoon. However, the black jade poisonous spider was still a little worried. It extended its poisonous fangs, intending to inject more poisonous liquid into the giant cocoon. Suddenly, the giant white cocoon was torn apart, and 2 long staff magic tools emerged from it, reaching into the black jade poisonous spider's mouth. Then, with a furious roar from Lu Kuan, the 2 peerless staff quickly merged into one and swelled into a giant black and red staff in the spider's mouth. Then, a scorching flame burst out from the spider's mouth. The attack from this pair of magic tools in the black jade poisonous spider's mouth directly exploded its head. It couldn't be more dead. Seeing the black jade poisonous spider fall, Lu Kuan's primordial fire once again ignited on his body. Together with the peerless staff, he completely shattered the giant cocoon. Lu Kuan had actually taken a huge risk in this battle. When he realized that the black jade poisonous spider could accurately determine his position, he knew that it would be very difficult to sneak up on it again. When the poisonous liquid was burned into poisonous smoke by his primordial fire and accidentally inhaled into his mouth, he thought of a plan. After inhaling the poisonous smoke, Lu Kuan actually didn't feel any discomfort. However, he remembered that Shun Mingyao had described the characteristics of this poison to him. He pretended to be a little dizzy. This poisonous spider, out of its hunting instincts, used its web to trap enemies to wrap him up. Unfortunately, this spider didn't know that Lu Kuan had discovered that his golden eyes could penetrate the spider's silk cocoon when it was hunting the petrifying lizards. Therefore, he purposely entered the spider's silk cocoon. The paralysis of the spider's silk also didn't have any effect on his muscles' transcendence energy. In the end, Lu Kuan took advantage of the moment when the spider relaxed and opened its mouth to explode the power of the peerless staff in its mouth. In an instant, he finished off this terrifying top-tier demonic beast. After storing the corpse of the black jade poisonous spider in his storage bag, Lu Kuan walked towards the nest in the middle of the forest. He wasn't worried about Shan Mingyao, who was fighting with Du Yuanshan outside. Without the black jade poisonous spider, the spider silk it left behind was still troublesome. Lu Kuan had to burn it with his primordial fire to burn it off. When Lu Kuan was almost done cleaning up the spider silk outside the cave, a worried Shin Mingyao also came here. Lu Kuan, why aren't you wearing any clothes? Shin Mingyao, who was originally very worried about Lu Kuan, saw Lu Kuan's naked body swaying around and playing with fire. She immediately shouted loudly. However, even though she shouted, her eyes were fixed on Lu Kuan's well-defined and perfect body. The demoness touched her slightly hot cheeks and muttered in her heart, "This guy is fierce in battle. I didn't expect his body to be so fierce as well." Lu Kuan realized that his entire body had been ignited by the flames just now. His clothes were all burned away. Now, only a bee-skin belt with a storage bag and the wooden bracelet on his neck were still outside. He smiled embarrassedly and quickly turned around to put on a black robe. When Shin Mingyao saw Lu Kuan put on his clothes, her eyes revealed a trace of reluctance. She asked with concern, "Did you kill the black jade poisonous spider? Are you injured?" "I killed that poisonous spider. As for whether I was injured or not, didn't you see it all?" Lu Kuan looked at Shun Mingyao's expression and couldn't help but tease her. However, who knew that Shin Mingyao would say with a serious face, "I didn't see it too clearly. Why don't you check it for me again? It wouldn't be good if I was bitten by the spider." "Ha!" Shin Mingyao looked at the stunned Lu Kuan and let out a bell-like, pleasant laughter. Chapter 92. Lu Kuan saw that Shan Mingyao was standing there unscathed, with only a little bit of magic power depleted. Although he had some guesses in his heart, he still asked, "Did you finish off Du Yuanshan?" After hearing Lu Kuan's words, Shun Mingyao said proudly, "Du Yuanshan was injured by me at the beginning. Towards the end, his magic power was depleted and he was easily killed by me. The battle between Shun Mingyao and Du Yuanshan was like a battle between ordinary Qi refinement stage cultivators. They competed on the depth of their magic power, the sharpness of their magic tools, and the number of talismans they had. Du Yuanshan had used up some talismans in the previous battle, and his magic power was insufficient. The offensive power of his magic tool was also lower than that of the green spirit sword, so he was completely at a disadvantage. In this Demon Valley, the speed of Qi refinement stage cultivators was about the same. There was no way to escape. Lu Kuan's battle style was completely different from ordinary Qi refinement stage cultivators. Instead, it was similar to that of demonic beasts. Most of them went for close combat. If the enemy was slightly careless during battle, or if their defense was broken, they would suffer a crushing defeat. Lu Kuan looked at Shun Mingyao, who was holding her head up like a proud peacock, and said with a smile, "Fairy Shun is indeed powerful. Next, we can deal with Zhang Tu in this cave with peace of mind." Lu Kuan looked at the size of the cave entrance and reminded, "Just in case, Fairy Shun, set up the Jade Sea wave formation outside this cave entrance." Shun Mingyao nodded. She also thought so. As long as the formation was set up at the cave entrance, there would basically be no problems. At this moment, in a corner of the black jade poisonous spider's cave, there was a pure white cloth-like thing wrapped around a short figure. This person was hiding behind a white cloak. His appearance was ordinary, and his face was slightly sallow. His small eyes revealed an anxious expression as his mouth kept muttering. Strange, why did demonic beasts dare to come here recently? Half a day ago, this black jade poisonous spider went out to catch a demonic beast that trespassed into its territory. Why did it go out again now? Zhang Tu looked at a spider web at the other end of the cave and muttered to himself, "This female black jade poisonous spider has already given birth. It's still a long time before the baby spiders are born, so it doesn't need to go out to hunt demonic beasts and store food. Could it be that a cultivator came here?" Thinking of this, cold sweat appeared on Zhang Tu's sallow face. Left was left alone. He left of him of his leave was left. His was left. Him was. The two most precious things passed down in his family were the detailed information about this spiritual demon valley and the white jade cloak on his body. Back then, there was a late Foundation establishment stage elder in his family who owned this black jade poisonous spider as a spirit beast. He continuously collected spider silk for half a year, using the spider silk's characteristics and other precious materials to finally refine this superb grade concealment magic tool, the white jade cloak. As long as the user used a little magic power to activate it, it could isolate the physical body and magic power aura inside. Not only could it not be scanned by divine sense, even sound would be blocked by this white jade cloak. The only drawback was that this cloak could be seen with the naked eye, and it could not isolate the aura of the soul. 3 months ago, relying on the information in his family and the white jade cloak in his hand, he slowly walked to the deepest part of the Demon Valley. The black jade poisonous spider could not be seen with the naked eye, and his cloak was also made of its spider silk. Thus, he safely entered the spider's nest. Zhang Tu thought about how he relied on many advantages to reach this deep, and said to himself, "I don't believe that other Qi refinement stage cultivators can sneak in here. The black jade poisonous spider has not returned for so long. It is very likely that it is out hunting. This is my chance." It turned out that when Zhang Tu came here, he just happened to encounter the black jade poisonous spider laying 2 spider eggs. He was overjoyed. It must be known that spirit beasts of cultivators were very rare, and only these egg-laying demonic beasts could be controlled in the early stages with the soul-controlling technique. In these few months, the black jade poisonous spider did not go out, and Zhang Tu had no chance to steal the spider eggs, but now was his chance. Thinking of this, Zhang Tu wrapped himself in the white jade cloak. In order not to be stuck by the spider silk, he also stepped on the cloak and slowly walked towards the spider eggs. At this moment, Lu Kuan and Shun Mingyao also walked in. Zhang Tu's back was facing the entrance of the cave, and he could not hear the sound of footsteps, so he did not notice them at all. Lu Kuan looked at the carefully moving figure with a face of surprise and said to Shen Mingyao, "This is Zhang, too?" Shen Mingyao looked at the cloaked figure in the cave and took out a tracking artifact with a puzzled expression. After observing for a while, she said with certainty, "It's him. We were not quiet when we came in, but he couldn't hear us. Could it be because of the cloak he is wearing?" Shen Mingyao said thoughtfully, "It should be. That means that the cloak has the effect of blocking divine sense and sound." Shen Mingyao then looked in the direction of Zhang Tu's movement, and her charming face revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. She said, "There are actually 2 black jade poisonous spider eggs." Lu Kuan also saw the spider eggs and said with a frown, "The spider eggs can't run away. Let's deal with Zhang Tu first. Since he can't hear anything and his divine sense can't reach out of the cloak, I will shatter his heart in one move, and you take his primordial spirit." Okay. When Zhang Tu slowly walked step by step and was about to approach the spider eggs, he suddenly felt something hit him from behind. Following that, he heard the sound of his heart shattering, and his eyes were lifeless as he fell to the ground. Facing this cultivator who did not have any defensive artifact or shield, Lu Kuan only needed to quickly flash behind him and use the penetrating force of the Yuan exploding fist to easily shatter his heart and cause his physical body to die. It was as easy as dealing with the bandits of the Blackwind stronghold. Lu Kuan's attack did not use a trace of transcendence energy, so Zhang Tu's primordial spirit was unharmed. Following that, they saw a green ball of light float out from Zhang Tu's corpse, desperately flying out. Shen Mingyao had been waiting on the side for a long time. Seeing this scene, she immediately activated the artifact bottle in her hand. A green light flew out from the bottle, and Zhang Tu's primordial spirit was sucked into it. Looking at the bottle in her hand, Shen Mingyao finally breathed a sigh of relief. This mission was finally completed. This meant that after she successfully built her foundation, she could become the official disciple of the core formation stage ancestor. At that time, she would definitely be able to take fewer detours in the process of cultivation, and thus have the possibility of advancing to the core formation stage. Then Shen Mingyao seemed to have thought of something, and her expression changed a little. There was even a flash of intense hatred in her eyes. Lu Kuan seemed to have sensed something, and turned around to look at Shen Mingyao's slightly strange expression, and asked doubtfully, "What's wrong? Why are you a little unhappy after completing the mission?" Shen Mingyao seemed to have woken up from a dream, and covered it up. "It's nothing. I didn't expect the final mission to be completed so easily." After Lu Kuan heard this, he shook his head and said, "Think about it, from the moment you entered the valley until now. Which step was simple?" After Shen Mingyao heard this, she thought about everything that had happened since she entered the valley until now. She faintly smiled, and then said, "Let's distribute our gains. This time, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to complete this mission." After Lu Kuan heard this, he placed all the things in Zhang Tu's storage pouch on the ground. Among them, the most conspicuous were the 2 dark blue pill bottles, followed by a pile of spirit stones, several jade slips, and several artifacts. Apart from the cloak on Zhang Tu's body, there was only one artifact in the storage pouch that was rather eye-catching. This was a small knife that was a few inches long. Judging from the aura it was emitting, it was actually a top-grade artifact. Lu Kuan glanced at it, and threw the 2 bottles of pills to Shen Mingyao, and said, "Take a look and see if these are the building foundation dawn." After Shen Mingyao received the bottles, she opened them and took a look. These 2 bottles each contained a blue pill. After carefully examining it with her divine sense, she nodded to Lu Kuan, and with a very firm expression, she threw the 2 building foundation dawn to Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan looked at the 2 building foundation dawn in his hand, and somewhat doubtfully asked, "Fairy Shun, didn't we agree that I'll take one?" Shen Miao's jet-black bright eyes stared at Lu Kuan, and with a bit of melancholy, she said, "Lu Kuan, after this trip to the Demon Valley is over, I may return to the sect. With my current preparations, advancing to the building foundation stage is a sure thing." Lu Kuan looked at Shun Mingyao's eyes, and his heart throbbed a bit. After hearing these words, his expression was very reluctant, and he silently nodded, but his hands tightly clenched the building foundation dawn in his hand. Shun Mingyao looked at Lu Kuan's expression and knew that he cared about her. She was somewhat happy and said, Lu Kuan, these 2 building foundation dawn are for you. With the situation of your hidden spiritual root, naturally, the more building foundation dawn, the better. Hearing this, how could Lu Kuan not understand the other party's concern? He said, Fairy Shun, I won't hide it from you. After this trip to the Demon Valley, I will enter the Yang clan. With the help of the sect's resources, my chances of reaching the building foundation stage are still very high. Shun Mingyao heard this and breathed a sigh of relief, because with Lu Kuan's strength and Xiao Jin's magical power, most dangerous people could complete the task, and they would certainly be able to exchange for more building foundation dawn. Thinking of this, Shun Mingyao's face bloomed with a smile. She said to Lu Kuan somewhat shyly, Lu Kuan, you don't have to call me Fairy Shun in the future. Just call me Mingyao. Lu Kuan looked at Shun Mingyao's incomparably shy and charming smile, as well as those big eyes that were full of spirit. His expression became dull, as if he had been bewitched. After a long while, Shun Mingyao's voice sounded again. If you don't speak, then I'll take it that you agree. The remaining things in Zhang Tu's storage pouch all belong to me. Lu Kuan seemed to have woken up from a dream at this time, and shouted, Which, you're using bewitchment on me again. No, you must give me half of the spirit stones. It's your lack of concentration. I haven't even activated my magic power, and you're already stunned. Chapter 93. At this time, in a place outside the black jade poisonous spider forest, the stooped Pan Shu looked at the forest with an uncertain expression. He had seen Shin Mingyao kill Du Yuanshan from a distance, but he didn't go forward to help, because he didn't see that male cultivator. If he angered him, with his self-restraint, it would be a dead end. Pan Shu touched his back. The place where he was injured a few days ago still hurt. He couldn't help but whisper, I don't know where this male cultivator came from. His attack method is so strange, and his speed is also very fast. I've already used the Thunder Palm attack talisman I just got. Without a powerful attack method, it's better not to participate. Then, Pan Shu thought about his experience these days. His eyebrows twitched, and he was very proud. This time, the harvest in Smart Demon Valley is very big. 3 Yang clan cultivator storage bags, and 2 people's share of Crimson Fire Royal Jelly. Next, I just need to find a place to hide and spend the rest of the days. After leaving the valley, I'll carefully sell these things. No, I'd better leave early. If I'm discovered by that male cultivator, I'll be in danger. After saying that, this unusually cautious rogue cultivator used the earth escape technique to escape. At this time, Lu Kuan and Shun Mingyao in the Black Jade Poisonous Spider Cave had already divided the spoils of war. The knife-shaped top-grade magic weapon went to Lu Kuan, the white jade cloak went to Shun Mingyao, and the rest of the things were divided equally. Lu Kuan was discussing something with Xiao Jin. Although the man and the monkey didn't speak the same language, they seemed to be able to understand each other. Shun Mingyao was carefully observing the 2 spider eggs to determine their birth date. When she heard that Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin seemed to be chatting, her expression froze. She suddenly remembered something and said to Lu Kuan, is Xiao Jin your bloodline spirit beast? When Lu Kuan heard this, he stopped the discussion with Xiao Jin and asked with some doubts, what is a bloodline spirit beast? Shun Mingyao saw that Lu Kuan's doubts didn't seem to be fake. She suddenly said, no wonder you don't know. Bloodline spirit beasts were common in the immortal cultivation world a long time ago. They are rarely seen now. Looking at Lu Kuan's blank expression, Shun Mingyao explained, the so-called bloodline spirit beast is a demonic beast that is connected to its master's bloodline. The early immortal cultivators invented a bloodline spirit controlling technique. Using this technique to control demonic beasts, not only are their minds connected to their master, but their spiritual intelligence will also be greatly increased, and they will be exceptionally intelligent. I saw that Shao Jin was communicating with you so smoothly, and its spiritual intelligence is extremely high. This can only be explained by a bloodline spirit beast. Lu Kuan looked at Shao Jin's intelligent eyes and smiled slightly. Only he knew that Shao Jin was naturally intelligent and didn't need to open its spiritual intelligence to have such spiritual intelligence. However, their minds were indeed connected. He said, Shao Jin and I do have a feeling of being connected by blood. However, I don't know this technique. Hearing Lu Kuan's words, Shun Mingyao said with some envy, this bloodline spirit controlling technique has long been lost. It seems that only a few ancient immortal cultivation sects still have it. You may have merged your blood with Shao Jin under special circumstances and accidentally completed the bloodline spirit controlling technique. This kind of situation is occasionally rumored in the immortal cultivation world. Lu Kuan recalled that period of time. It just happened that he hadn't completely absorbed the golden ape's blood essence. Maybe Shao Jin had also absorbed some. He suddenly realized that his and Shao Jin's minds were connected because of the golden ape's blood essence. However, he couldn't control Shao Jin's actions, so it shouldn't be a bloodline spirit controlling technique. However, he didn't say this out loud. Shun Mingyao looked at Lu Kuan's expression and felt that she had guessed correctly. She continued, your situation is really an opportunity. The bloodline spirit beast and its master's cooperation is like twin brothers. They cooperate with each other very well and have extremely high spiritual intelligence. They can spontaneously cultivate and complete some tasks. Shun Mingyao looked at Lu Kuan and Shao Jin and revealed a somewhat complicated expression. She continued, however, this bloodline spirit controlling technique has 3 major drawbacks. Drawbacks? That's right. First of all, it is difficult to cast the technique. It can only be cast when the demonic beast is unable to resist. Secondly, when the cultivator and the demonic beast die, the other party's soul will also be damaged. It will take a long time to recover. At a critical moment, it may even affect the cultivator's breakthrough. The last point is that a cultivator can only control one demonic beast with the bloodline spirit controlling technique in his lifetime. Even if this demonic beast dies, there is no way to control a second one with the bloodline spirit controlling technique. Shun Mingyao looked at Shao Jin and continued, Shao Jin's magical power is so powerful. Lu Kuan, you didn't waste this one and only opportunity. When Shao Jin heard Shun Mingyao praising him, he also smiled cheekily and was extremely proud. Shun Mingyao smiled and said, in the previous immortal cultivation world, many cultivators who wanted to quickly improve their strength had bloodline spirit beasts. However, as the number of times they faced enemies increased, the enemies often prioritized killing the bloodline spirit beasts. This caused the cultivator's strength to be greatly reduced, and they could no longer have spirit beasts. After a period of time, a talented senior created a new demonic beast spirit controlling technique. This new demonic beast spirit controlling technique is now the most used spell in the immortal cultivation world to control demonic beasts. The biggest improvement of this spell is to remove the last 2 drawbacks of the bloodline spirit controlling technique. Using this demonic beast spirit controlling technique, not only can the cultivator control multiple demonic beasts, but the death of the demonic beast will also not bring discomfort to the cultivator. The new spell also has a flaw. That is, the intelligence of the demonic beast controlled by this demonic beast spirit controlling technique can't be improved too much. They can only understand simple commands. In addition, the casting requirement of the demonic beast spirit controlling technique has increased. It needs the demonic beast to have no hostility towards the cultivator. Comparing the two, the immortal cultivation world has already used the new demonic beast spirit controlling technique. However, the harsh casting requirement makes it very difficult for cultivators to subdue demonic beasts. This is because most cultivators will hunt some demonic beasts, and their bodies will more or less have a ferocious aura. There is no way to make demonic beasts friendly. As a result, the only way for cultivators to obtain demonic beasts is through demonic beast eggs. Therefore, demonic beast eggs of various levels are very valuable. Like these two black jade poisonous spider eggs. If nurtured well, they can even enter the foundation establishment stage and become a powerful class 2 demonic beast. It will definitely be a great help. Lu Kuan looked at the spider eggs in front of him thoughtfully. No wonder Zhang Tuquan's mind was on the demonic beast eggs and didn't notice their arrival. He said, so when Zhang Tuquan realized that he had the opportunity to obtain 2 demonic beast eggs at once, he became so excited. Shen Mingyao looked at the 2 black jade poisonous spider eggs, and her face flushed with excitement. She said, that's right, there are 2 spider eggs. We could divide them equally. Lu Kuan looked at Shen Mingyao's excited expression and said, Mingyao, you can have these 2 demonic beast eggs. Shen Mingyao said in astonishment, no, we will definitely divide them equally. You can even exchange them for spirit stones. Lu Kuan shook his head and said, my extra resources will definitely be used on Xiao Jin. If Xiao Jin can advance to a class 2 demonic beast, it will be more helpful to me than any other demonic beast. The main reason Lu Kuan didn't say was that if Xiao Jin advanced to a class 2 demonic beast, it would definitely be through the elemental fire body tempering art. It will be a great reference for Lu Kuan. Seeing that Shen Mingyao wasn't willing to accept it, Lu Kuan said, your strength is very strong for cultivators weaker than you. But when facing cultivators of the same level, your attack methods are too simple. With the help of 2 demonic beasts, your battle strength will definitely increase greatly. If you still feel bad, then I will accept all the materials from the black jade poisonous spider's corpse. Shen Yao heard the concern in Lu Kuan's voice. She didn't hold back in her heart. She waved her hand and put the 2 spider eggs into her storage bag. When they were about to hatch, she would use the mind control spell to control them. Then Shen Mingyao said, demonic beast eggs and demonic beast materials, which is more precious, I know in my heart. How about this? I won't accept your gift for nothing. I will give you some benefits. When Lu Kuan heard Shen Mingyao's words, his expression became a little unnatural. In the end, he saw Shen Mingyao turn around and put her hand into her clothes. The sound of clothes rubbing against each other could be heard. His heart couldn't help but tremble as he muttered, Mingyao. Immediately after, Shen Mingyao turned around. Her clothes were still intact, but there was an extra cloth-like item in her hand. She threw this item to Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan subconsciously caught the parchment in his hand. Only then did he realize that it was the parchment he wanted. There was even a delicate fragrance on it. He couldn't help but reveal a trace of disappointment. He muttered to himself, so this is the sweetness. When Shen Mingyao saw Lu Kuan's wretched expression, how could she not know what he was thinking? She coldly snorted and said, do you want it? If you don't want it, then return it to me. Lu Kuan seemed to wake up from a dream as he hurriedly put away the parchment. He muttered in a low voice, so it has always been on you. You even lied to me that it was on some foundation establishment martial uncle. Shen Mingyao's ears were as sensitive as Xiao Jin's. She heard Lu Kuan's words and said, if I didn't say that, you would have already taken the opportunity to sneak attack me and kill me. How could I bear to part with such a beautiful fairy like you, Mingyao? Don't talk nonsense. What should we do next? Should we hurry to the outer area and wait? Or what? When Lu Kuan heard this, he hesitated. He walked back and forth in the cave and suddenly asked, Mingyao, do you plan to advance to the foundation establishment stage when you go back? That's right. Why? How old are you this year? Shen Mingyao was confused by Lu Kuan's sudden question. She subconsciously replied, 22 years old. Then she reacted and screamed, Lu Kuan, what do you mean? Why are you asking me about my age? Lu Kuan secretly sighed. No matter what world he was in, women always treated their age as their top secret. He didn't answer and instead asked very seriously, Mingyao, what do you think about the strength of my body? Shen Mingyao saw that Lu Kuan's expression was serious and didn't seem to be joking. She recalled several battles and muttered, "It's very strong. It's already close to a top-rank demonic beast. No wonder I always felt that something was not quite right. It turns out that I was carrying a top-rank demonic beast on a mission. That's why it was so easy." Hearing Shen Mingyao's description, Lu Kuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "You've seen many Foundation establishment stage cultivators fight. How do you think my body compares to theirs?" Shen Mingyao directly replied without hesitation this time, "It's definitely because you're strong. Even if a cultivator reaches the Foundation establishment stage, the strength of their body is definitely not comparable to that of a top-ranked demonic beast. If I teach you this kind of body tempering technique, will you learn it?" Chapter 94. Shen Mingyao's face was full of surprise. She asked, "You said you cultivated your own physical body?" Lu Kuan nodded, then shook his head and said, "The technique I taught you was created by a martial arts master in the secular world. It is very difficult for ordinary people to cultivate it, but for cultivators under the age of 50, it would take about 5 years to cultivate it. As for my physical body, it wasn't just cultivated by this technique. Then how did you cultivate your physical body, which is comparable to that of a top-level demonic beast?" Shen Mingyao had long been curious about Lu Kuan's technique. Now that the two of them were closer, she directly asked. Lu Kuan looked at Shen Mingyao's curious eyes. At this time, he didn't intend to tell her the elemental fire body refining technique. So he said, "I will tell you my technique after I succeed in building my foundation." Shen Mingyao said somewhat unhappily, "Humph, so mysterious. You mean you want me to build my foundation later and cultivate this secular technique first?" Lu Kuan shook his head and said, "No, the earlier you build your foundation, the better. I asked you about the time and age of building your foundation because I wanted you to take some time to cultivate after you build your foundation. After you finish cultivating, although it won't increase your strength greatly, at least you will have a certain amount of self-protection when you have no spiritual power left." Shen Mingyao heard this and remembered the day when she and Lu Kuan fought the petrifying lizard. At that time, she couldn't use her last bit of spiritual power and basically had no combat ability. She understood Lu Kuan's intention and was somewhat moved. She said, "Thank you, Lu Kuan." Lu Kuan couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression when he heard that this demoness actually knew how to thank someone. Shen Mingyao looked at Lu Kuan's expression. She didn't know why, but she had the impulse to hit him with her shoe. She said hatefully, "What kind of expression is this? Can't I thank someone? Hurry up and teach me the technique." With a wry smile, Lu Kuan began to teach Shen Mingyao the Vajra esoteric art. Once a cultivator reached the middle stage of the Qi refining realm, they would develop a divine sense and have a photographic memory. Therefore, Shen Mingyao was able to quickly memorize all 7 layers of the Vajra esoteric art. There was no spiritual energy in the Demon Valley, so the efficiency of cultivating the basic techniques was extremely low. Shen Mingyao began to try cultivating the first layer of the Vajra esoteric art. Of course, Lu Kuan also taught Shen Mingyao a set of static strength movements that he had learned on Earth. Seeing Shen Mingyao perform all kinds of gymnastics with her incomparably enchanting figure, Lu Kuan drooled. However, he quickly restrained himself. His current goal was to increase his cultivation. Next, he made arrangements for his time. Lu Kuan had already thought about what he needed to do in this demon valley. First, he needed to use the demon Qi to temper his body. Since the last battle with the petrifying lizard, he had used the method of concealing his divine sense to hide the bloodthirsty intent in his demon Qi. Now, Lu Kuan could use the demon Qi without worry. Next, he needed to fight with a few top-tier demonic beasts in the surroundings while cultivating. Some of these top-tier demonic beasts weren't very fast. When he didn't have any transcendence energy, he definitely wouldn't be able to defeat them. However, with the help of the demonic aura, his speed wouldn't be much slower. Escaping wouldn't be a problem. If they caught up to him, he would hide in the black jade poisonous spider's cave. Top-tier demonic beasts with strong territorial awareness wouldn't follow him in. Even if they did, he could use the Jade Sea Waves array to trap the top-tier demonic beasts. With the help of Shen Mingyao, he could slowly kill them. As for Xiao Jin, the task that Lu Kuan had arranged for it was to use the demonic aura here to cultivate with all its might. With Xiao Jin's abnormal aptitude for absorbing demonic aura, it would soon reach the 7th level of the Vajra esoteric art. It was just unknown if it could cultivate the 7th level to the large success stage and directly break through to the level of an upper-tier demonic beast. Lu Kuan had a total of 3 storage pouches. He gave one to Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin's demonic spiritual power was able to use the storage pouch. It was just right for it to store some high-tier demonic beast flesh, the 2 short sticks, and some talismans. Perhaps it was because Xiao Jin's spiritual intelligence was extremely high. Under Lu Kuan's explanation, it was actually able to activate the Cultivator's talismans. Lu Kuan simply gave Xiao Jin most of the talismans that he obtained. This way, Xiao Jin could still be of help in some battles. In the forest of a mountain peak on the outskirts of the Spirit Demon Valley, a man and a woman carefully hid behind a tree. The man had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and an extraordinary heroic spirit. However, the blue robe on his body was somewhat tattered. The woman beside him had beautiful eyebrows, bright eyes, white teeth, and a nervous expression. At this time, the only men and women who could team up in the Spirit Demon Valley were the Qing Province's Yi clan siblings, Yi Zitao, and the Foliaceous Water. The 2 of them looked at the top of a tree, not far away. There were 2 eagle-like demonic beasts there. These 2 demonic beasts, one big and one small, were similar in appearance. They should be one male and one female. From the top of their heads to the back of their tails, the tips of their wings and the front of their sharp beaks were a bright black color. Their claws and the back of their beaks were a golden yellow color. Their eyes were like lightning, and they were exceptionally mighty. The place where they were standing was their nest. There seemed to be 2 demonic beast eggs in the nest. After a while, the eyes of one of the majestic and mighty male demonic beasts seemed to have discovered something and flew down the mountain. Seeing this demonic beast move, the Yi clan siblings were pleasantly surprised. The 2 waited for a moment and patted the storage bags in their hands. 2 fat rats exuding the aura of demonic beasts appeared at the bottom of the mountain. They were the bamboo rats that Lu Kuan had seen at Old Ghost Morong's place. These 2 fat bamboo rats, under the control of the brother and sister, ran in 2 different directions. One went to the tree in the nest, and the other went in the direction of the eagle. The other female demonic beast guarding the nest immediately noticed the bamboo rat. It spread its wide wings and glided down. The bamboo rat also noticed its natural enemy, and its survival instinct made it turn back the way it came in fright. Unfortunately, the bamboo rat's speed was not as fast as the flying demonic beast. In the blink of an eye, it was pressed down by the claws that flashed with cold light. Its body was easily pierced by the sharp beak that was like a magic tool. When the female demonic beast pressed down on the bamboo rat, the Yi clan siblings also took action. They each summoned a halberd-like magic tool and circulated their magic power. The 2 halberds instantly merged into one and turned into a huge axe-like magic tool that emitted cold light. Its speed was extremely fast. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, it arrived in front of the female eagle. At this time, the female eagle had just pierced through the bamboo rat's body. Before it could recover from the pleasure of successfully killing its prey, its head was cut off by the huge axe. When the Yi clan's brothers saw this, they did not have the slightest joy of killing the demonic beast. They quickly withdrew their magic tools. The 2 magic tools first separated and returned to their side. They immediately merged together. At this moment, their shape was somewhat different from the huge axe. They had turned into a small halberd. However, this halberd had an axe blade inlaid on the head and the tail. When this small halberd was formed, the male demonic beast in the distance let out a mournful cry. As if it knew that the female demonic beast had died, it quickly flew back. However, it did not attack the Yi clan's brothers. Instead, it immediately returned to its nest. The Yi clan siblings seemed to know the movements of the male demonic beast. The newly combined small halberd quickly spun. A faint golden light flashed and cut into the sky, cutting the male eagle in half. The Yi clan siblings let out a sigh of relief. The foliaceous water's eyes revealed a trace of relief. He said, "We didn't observe for so many days in vain. We understood their accurate speed. Brother, you did well." To the side, Yi Zitao nodded and said, "Little sister, your estimation was accurate. You grasped the opportunity. Otherwise, with the temperament of this black kite, it would have returned to its nest to destroy its young." The foliaceous water looked at the two demonic beast corpses and said with some emotion, "Only in this spirit demon valley can there be high-grade black kites. Under the cover of this thick yellow demonic fog, the black kites can't fly too high. There's no way for them to advance to a higher realm." Yi Zitao turned to look at the nest in the tree and laughed. "Therefore, after we take these two black kite cubs out of the demon valley and carefully cultivate them, there's no problem for them to advance to second-grade demonic beasts." After he finished speaking, he used a light body technique on himself and quickly climbed up the tree. He put the two white eggs into the spirit beast pouch. After Yi Zitao came down, he threw the spirit beast pouch to his sister. The foliaceous water used her divine sense to feel the two demonic beast eggs in the pouch and revealed a happy expression. She said, "Brother, after we go back this time, the old ancestor will be very happy to know that we got the black kite eggs." Yi Zitao's eyes revealed a bit of doting. He praised, "Who in the Qing province doesn't know of my little sister's intelligence? The old ancestor knows that this mission won't be difficult for us. Then I'll go back and ask him for some benefits. Otherwise, if he wants to take these demonic beasts back to the clan, I won't do it. Little sister, don't worry. Since the old ancestor sent us here, he wants to give these two precious demonic beasts to us." After the foliaceous water heard this, she rolled her eyes and said, "It's good that it's like this. Otherwise, when I go back, I'll definitely teach him a lesson. Then we'll spend the rest of our time hunting some demonic beasts in the central region." When Yi Zitao heard his little sister ridicule the core formation old ancestor, he bitterly smiled. However, when he heard the second half of the sentence, he said with a bit of worry, "This time, we should be more careful about the spirit demon valley and the disciples of the Lu province's cultivation sections. Don't hunt demonic beasts that are too powerful. Don't worry, I'm not a reckless and willful girl. Let's go down the mountain first." After she finished speaking, she brought her brother down the mountain with an even more worried expression. In another part of the outer region, a tall man was sitting cross-legged. His red clothes were a bit tattered. It was Huang Fei, who used the Earth Escape Talisman to escape. It turned out that after he had escaped that day, he had been targeted by the fierce badger. Fortunately, Huang Fei was cautious. As soon as the Earth Escape technique ended, he arranged a simple spirit array on the spot, temporarily trapping the fierce badger that was chasing after him. Now that he had escaped to the outermost region, Huang Fei's expression became very unsightly when he thought about how he hadn't seen the fierce badger for the past few days. This meant that the fierce badger knew to recover first and not blindly chase after him without regard for its own injuries. Even if Huang Fei's Fa Li was completely restored, he still wouldn't be a match for the fierce badger that had recovered its strength. Moreover, he had used up most of his life-saving methods. Chapter 95. In the blink of an eye, more than 2 months had passed. In a place in the northern part of the spiritual Demon Valley grassland, 2 figures appeared. One of them was a woman dressed in a black robe. Her eyes were watery, her skin was smooth, and her figure was enchanting. The other man was dressed in black. He had thick eyebrows, big eyes, and was stalwart. The two of them were like a perfect couple. The woman looked back and said with some emotion, "It turns out that other than the cloak, Zhang Tu's clan also has detailed records of the spiritual demon valley. It allowed us to pass through the central region effortlessly." The man also said, "Fortunately, we have this. Otherwise, we would have to spend a lot of effort to come out." I didn't expect that with the increase of Xiao Jin's cultivation, the Demon Valley would have such a great influence on him. The woman continued, "The demonic qi in the Demon Valley must be unusual. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many demonic beasts willing to give up the dense demonic qi here and leave the Demon Valley." These two people were Lu Kuan and Shun Mengyao. In the past 2 months, Lu Kuan did not study the parchment that Shun Mengyao gave him. On the one hand, he did not want to let Shun Mengyao know that he was still figuring out his cultivation method, which would cause unnecessary trouble. On the other hand, there was no spiritual qi in the Demon Valley. Even if he comprehended something, he could not imitate it. On the other hand, Lu Kuan used the demonic qi to temper his body. The improvement of his physical body was very obvious. Even if he did not reach the 12th layer of the qi refining realm, he was not too far away. Moreover, under the concealment of his spiritual root, the bloodthirst and the demonic qi did not affect him at all. Lu Kuan's combat experience increased rapidly in the process of fighting with other top-tier demonic beasts. However, he also fell into dangerous situations several times. The most dangerous time was when he accidentally encountered a black panther that walked out of its territory. This black panther was extremely fast, much faster than his body control flying technique. At that time, Lu Kuan was in a hurry. He ignored the burden on his body and used the exploding essence steps to escape back to the black jade poisonous spider's territory. The black panther was afraid and did not enter the forest, allowing Lu Kuan to escape. However, his body was severely injured by the exploding essence steps. The injury was even more serious than when he first entered the valley. Xiao Jin's improvement was even more obvious. It didn't take long for him to enter the 7th layer of the Vajra arts. However, as his cultivation increased, he felt that there was something wrong with the demonic qi. The monkey's face gradually filled with resentment. It was completely different from the bloodthirsty qi that Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan and the little monkey had a telepathic connection. He immediately felt that something was wrong. Taking advantage of the fact that Xiao Jin still had some rationality, he let it use up all of the demonic qi in its body to refine its body. Only then did the little monkey return to normal. Lu Kuan then placed it back into the spiritual beast pouch. He didn't dare to take any risks and planned to let it out after leaving the Demon Valley. After learning the Vajra arts, Shun Mengyao became more and more obsessed with the training of her physical strength. Relying on the advantage of her powerful divine sense and young body, she managed to complete the 1st layer of the Vajra arts in just 2 months. She was so excited that she even competed with Lu Kuan in terms of strength while he was training. This made Lu Kuan feel that teaching her the Vajra arts was a wrong decision. During this time, Shun Mengyao found a jade slip from Zhang Tuesday. It actually described in detail the distribution of the demonic beasts in the Spirit Demon Valley and their work and rest schedule. Therefore, with only 5 days left, the two of them followed the safe route described in the jade slip and passed through the central region. Right now, the two of them were at the border between the central region and the outer region. Just as the two of them finished discussing Xiao Jin, Lu Kuan's eyes flashed with a golden light, as if he had discovered something. He said to Shun Mengyao, "Mengyao, let's hide. It seems like there are demonic beasts and cultivators coming." After hearing this, Shun Mengyao was convinced. Knowing that Lu Kuan couldn't use his Fa Li at this time, she quickly cast an invisibility technique on the two of them and hid to the side. Not long after, an upper-level demonic beast appeared in the distant grassland. Its face was triangular, and its ears were rather large and upright. Its mouth was very sharp, and its entire body was covered with fiery red hair. Especially its tail, it was as dazzling as a flame. However, its hind legs were injured, so its running speed wasn't very fast. When Shun Mengyao saw this demonic beast, Her eyes lit up. Her gaze was like a fierce badger seeing a black-horned snake, incomparable desire. She whispered to Lu Kuan, "This fire fox beast, I want it." Then, she deepened her tone and said again, "I want it." Then, under Lu Kuan's shocked gaze, she ran out and took out her verdant spirit sword. A sword light shot towards the fire fox beast. This fire fox beast didn't expect that there would be a human ambush here, and its head was directly pierced through by this lightning-fast sword light. Then, Shen Mingyao beamed with joy as she walked towards the fox's corpse. Just as she was about to put the demonic beast's corpse in her storage bag, a sharp cry came from afar. "Which, you actually dare to steal my fire fox beast?" Not far away, a man and woman ran over. The woman with bright eyes and white teeth was Foliaceous Water. When she saw that Shen Mingyao wanted to steal the fire fox beast she had been tracking for a long time, she furrowed her brows and glared. With a wave of her hands, a halberd that emitted a slight golden glow shot towards Shen Mingyao. Seeing this, Shen Mingyao coldly snorted. Her verdant spirit sword let out a crisp sword hum and met the halberd head-on. The power of a top-grade magic tool directly suppressed the halberd and forced it to retreat. Foliaceous Water's expression turned ugly. She shouted, "Brother, why aren't you coming to help?" On the side, Yi Zitao revealed a helpless expression. He also took out a similar halberd and approached his sister's magic tool. He planned to use a joint attack to defeat Shen Mingyao. Suddenly, a black-clothed man emitting a red glow appeared in front of his halberd. He held a burning silver sledgehammer in his hand, and the muscles on his arms were twice as big as an ordinary person's. The black-clothed man quickly made a spinning motion, and the silver sledgehammer accurately hit Yi Zitao's halberd, sending it flying effortlessly. Then, a red light flashed under the man's feet. In the blink of an eye, he approached Yi Zitao. Yi Zitao's expression changed greatly. He quickly activated a defensive talisman. At the same time, he took out a high-grade, rope-like magic tool. At this time, the black-clothed man's sledgehammer fiercely hit his defensive shield. The shield trembled violently and then shattered. This high-grade defensive shield couldn't withstand the power of this man's attack. Yi Zitao's expression was aghast, but he didn't panic. At this time, his spirit-binding rope flew out in time and trapped the man. This spirit-binding rope could not only confine spiritual power, but it also had an extremely strong binding force. Even a high-grade demonic beast might not be able to break free from it. Then, Yi Zitao saw a trace of excitement on the man's face. His steel-like arms were actually burning with flames, and the red light on his arms shone brightly. Under Yi Zitao's shocked gaze, he broke free from the spirit-binding rope. The black-clothed man continued to attack Yi Zitao. Fortunately, Yi Zitao had already recalled his halberd and blocked this attack. However, the man's feet flashed with a red light, and he disappeared from his original position. Yi Zitao didn't have time to take out a new defensive talisman and could only quickly activate his own magic power to protect himself. Just as the silver hammer was about to hit his back, another halberd flew over from afar and blocked the black-clothed man's attack. It turned out that when the Foliaceous Water realized that her brother was in more danger than her, she immediately abandoned the fire fox beast and came back to rescue him. Shen Mingyao took the opportunity to collect the fire fox beast's corpse from afar. The black-clothed man was Lu Kuan. When he saw the two of them from afar, he guessed that they were the Yi clan's siblings. When Shen Mingyao and the Foliaceous Water were fighting, he stared at the male cultivator and stopped him in time. It must be known that Lu Kuan had been tempered by the demonic aura during this period of time. After activating the elemental fire shield on his arms, his strength increased exponentially. As long as he had a magic tool of good quality, he would be able to display the strength of his arms. At this time, when his spiritual root was not present, the power of his weapon-forging hammer was very strong. At the beginning of the battle, he completely suppressed Yi Zitao, who was also at the 11th level. Of course, if Yi Zitao was outside the valley, you would have realized that Lu Kuan's movement technique was unable to fly into the sky. As long as he flew into the sky, Lu Kuan would become a live target. After being blocked by the foliaceous water, the two siblings had already met up. The two of them had their backs against each other. A set of high-grade magic tools floated in front of them, so they could not be sneak attacked. Lu Kuan was also quite afraid of this set of magic tools. He retreated and stood side by side with Shen Mingyao. The Yi clan siblings looked at Lu Kuan and Shen Mingyao with uncertain expressions, especially Yi Zitao. The short exchange just now had allowed him to survive. If it were not for the foliaceous water's timely rescue, he would not have had time to use his trump card and would have been killed. On the other hand, the foliaceous water was even more depressed. This firefox beast could be said to be very precious in the outside world, mainly because its fur was an essential material for the rainbow fiery feathers garment. This rainbow fiery feathers garment was a high-grade magic tool outer garment. It was warm in the winter and cool in the summer. After channeling transcendence energy into it, it could resist water and fire spells, and its defensive power was not bad. The rarest and most praiseworthy thing was that this garment's appearance was bright and gorgeous. When worn, it would appear graceful and luxurious. It could be said that this was the magic tool outer garment that most female cultivators dreamed of. Its price outside was even higher than that of a top-grade magic tool. Unfortunately, due to the scarcity of firefoxes, the rainbow fiery feathers garment was extremely limited. If the foliaceous water had the material of this firefox beast fur, the Yi clan's magic tool refiners would be able to make the rainbow fiery feathers garment. However, this meat that was right in front of her was unexpectedly taken away by this female cultivator from the miraculous gate. Her male companion's strength was strangely strong, so it would be very difficult to snatch it back. Just as the two sides were about to touch each other, Lu Kuan suddenly turned his head to look at an empty space not far away and said, "Since fellow Taoist Pan is already here, why don't you show yourself?" Don't tell me you're waiting for the four of us to fight until both sides are injured before you show yourself? Hearing Lu Kuan's words, the Yi clan siblings turned pale and looked at the place where Lu Kuan was looking. They saw a yellow light flash and a wretched man appeared. If it was not Pan Shu, who else could it be? The Yi clan siblings also recognized this famous rogue cultivator, but they didn't take him seriously. However, they were even more afraid of Lu Kuan. They both believed that Lu Kuan was a person with a powerful spiritual sense, which was why he was able to discover Pan Shu using the Earth Escape technique. It must be known that the strength of one's spiritual sense determined the number of magic tools one could use. Yi Zitao couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "This person just used a high-grade magic tool and is already so powerful. I didn't expect him to not use his full strength." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.